welcome to the High Noon Stream. I'm Pugs, Moran. High Noon Rant, High Noon Stream, we don't know. It's the Pugs, Moran show. Ba-da! That's, ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. That's Pete's first guy in, Peter. And that's a good thing that you were here early because you are the executive producer of today's show. That's right. Co-exec producers. We got Jeff B. And Peter L. Well, Peter Lufkin. I don't know why I try. I don't know why I go out of my way to protect the identity of people. You know, if you're comfortable with it, you're comfortable with it. You're our executive producers of today's show, Jeff Ballard and Peter Lufkin. There you go. Thank you, guys. Anything you want, it's your show. You control the direction. Although you're about to learn the issue that a lot of producers have with their talent. And by the way, in this equation, I'm talent. Hi, Cameron. We're just waiting for the chat room to fill in. I'm talent, you're producers. You're going to tell me what to do, and I, based on the long agreed upon structure of the entertainment industry, when you tell me what to do, I am then supposed to do it. But you see, this is where talent, mercurial, if you will, talent. Yeah, sometimes I won't do what you say, but you know, that's what you get when you're the executive producer of a day's show. You get the opportunity to tell me what to do, and get the opportunity to have the experience of me going, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. But do appreciate you. Thank you, fellas. Peter and Jeff both taking over the helms of today's show as the executive producer. What is that all about? Well, what we do here is we give you a show every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. What I do is I try and compile all the most interesting stories that are making their way around the world today. Whether it's, well, obviously, you got the Israeli thing, you got the speaker thing, you got stuff going on with Elon again, you got this Jada and Will story. See, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and we talk about it every day. We run through it like a list. I go through, here's the first thing, here's why people are talking about it, here's what I think, we move on. What we don't do on this show is we don't get into the weeds on politics. We don't talk about, favoritism or partisanship. That's not what we do here. I don't give a shit how you voted. You shouldn't give a shit how I voted. You should probably be able to figure how I might vote on any specific issue just simply by spending some time with me. I can look at my friends in the chat room. Some of you have been with us now for over 2 years. I look at my friends in the chat room and I got a pretty good idea how they vote. I don't care. I'm not going to question them about it. I don't think that's it. And that's what we avoid here on this show. So, because we do this kind of talk radio that just isn't really monetizable. I don't even is that a word. Can't really get a job doing this, even though I've been working in major market radio, talk radio since 1992. So we do this. This is a different style of talk radio, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do and you want to support this kind of talk radio and you want to maybe find yourself in that big producer's chair on a coming show, you can drop a little something in the Cash App or the Venmo. We do accept tips, and people who tip during the show then become the executive producers of the next day's show. So thank you. Today's executive producers, Jeff and Peter. All right. So I told you what we do here is we go through all of the hot topics, current events, trends, stuff like that, stuff people are talking about. But before that, we do a couple of days. Really, the show is 4 quarters, right? So like the first quarter is a segment we call Erstwhile on This Day. And what is that? Well, that is a previously on. We take a look back on this day in history. Couple of events that I find interesting that I can rant about for a few minutes. We go into it. We do that. That's Erstwhile on This Day. That's first quarter. Second quarter, we go into birthdays. We talk about people who were born on this day. We look at what their contributions have been to humanity, and then we move on. We decide if we like them or we don't. That's the heavy lifting involved there. Then we move on to the deads. I like the deads, the people who died on this day, because we take people who have died on this day, we look at their entire lives, at least our understanding of their resume. We look at what they've done, and based upon our understanding of the prerequisites to get into heaven or hell, we decide, is this dead person, did they go to heaven or did they go to hell? And that's the third quarter. Then in the fourth quarter, it's the second half of the show, the big bulk of the show, really. That's when we get into all the day's events. So if you're with me, let's get started. Let's start today's show. Let's fire up this engine. What do you say? Trying to vamp. So here's the other thing, folks. No breaks, no commercials, no songs, no traffic, no weather, none of that stuff. Just me, 2 hours, stream of consciousness, riffing on the news. That's what this show is. It's art. I'm going to justify it that way. I ever, I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to need to have some sort of a conversation with a tax accountant at some point. And at that point, I will become an artist. This is art. You can't. Intellectual property and what, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. It is the High Noon Rant with me, your humble host, Pugs Moran, for this day, the 12th. It is the 12th day of October, year of our Lord, 2023. October the 12th, fun fact, is the 285th day of the year. 285 days left. 80 days left until New Year's. We got 80 days left in the year. 80 days. So what does that mean? Like, what, 73 until Christmas? If it's 80 days until New Year, then it's like, yeah, all right. So get those New Year's Eve plans started, but also, have you begun your Christmas shopping? We ain't there yet, right? It's October the 12th, although we are getting there. Wasn't that a problem in recent years where we start to see Christmas stuff before Halloween stuff? And then a problem. Yeah, well, all right. Anyway, let's get into some of the things that occurred on this day. It's a little segment that we like to call. Yeah, well, we called a couple of things. We call it the first quarter. We call it previously on. I like to call it erstwhile on this day. These are the events that have helped shape our perception of this day. Maybe give us a few hints. Maybe show us some rhythms. Maybe predict a little bit of what we can expect on this episode of October the 12th. On the erstwhile on October the 12th, year 1492. Right? So 1492. What is this? Columbus. Of course. It's the only thing that happened in 1492. On this day in 1492, Christopher Columbus's first expedition makes landfall in the Caribbean. Do you say Caribbean or do you say Caribbean? Oh, you know what? This was interesting to me. So I don't know if you guys know this or not. Again, stream of consciousness. We're just going to stream of consciousness for 2 hours. So sometimes I'm going to chase rabbit holes. I'm going to tell a little story. So I listened to a sports radio show out of Chicago because I'm a Chicago sports fan, because that's where I grew up. So I listened to sports radio from Chicago primarily. And my favorite show is a show that's on in the middle of the day on The Score. It's Bernstein and Holmes. They're I love them. They're great. I mean, I love them. I hate Dan Bernstein, but I love Dan Bernstein. It's one of those kind of deals. It's like, oh, this guy, he's out today. I hate when he's out. It's one of those deals. Anyway, so I've been listening to those two guys for a while. There's a girl who does. There's a girl. You Texans, you don't know this because you let her slip through your paws. But there is a girl in Chicago who does sports, and she is like just over the past 5 years or so, just taking the city by storm. She is like the high. You know how Emily Jones is here? Okay, so she's like Emily Jones times 50. She used to be the Bulls girl, then she was the White Sox girl, then she became the 10 o'clock lead news anchor on NBC doing sports, then she took a midday show doing sports talk. Man, this is a girl, her name is Leila Rahimi, and she used to be at The Ticket. She's a UNT girl, Denton. I think she went to like freaking Louisville High School. She worked at The Ticket. She was on The Ticket as an update girl, and I don't know, I guess a little girl from Denton, you can't be. She is dominating Chicago sports talk radio. She is so good. Anyway, my point is this. This started out with me going, do you say Caribbean or do you say Caribbean? Yesterday on the midday show, it's called Wednesdays with Leila. She sits in, she doesn't do sports talk anymore. She's too big for that. Now she's like, the lead news anchor or TV sports anchor in town. But she is so good at sports radio, and the station was so pleased to have her as a host that she comes back every Wednesday and she sits in with the show she used to host. So now it's Leila Wednesdays. And again, we're talking about a girl who's like in her 30s from Denton, who is like quickly becoming one of the most beloved sports talkers in the city of Chicago. It's crazy. Anyway, so Caribbean. She was talking yesterday about how now she's lived in Chicago now for like 7 years or something. She's like, now that she's lived in Chicago, she feels comfortable enough that she can talk about all the things that people in Chicago say wrong. And it got into this conversation yesterday about the way we speak here in Texas, in Dallas, particularly, because that's where she's from, and the way we speak in Chicago. And it was one of the most entertaining. If you have a chance, you can go find, I don't know why I'm doing this. Stream of consciousness. That's why. I've got 2 hours. But it was from yesterday. You want to go back and listen to the Score live stream, just listen to Leila in the crosstalk, where you're talking about the way people in Texas and the way people in Chicago talk. It was very funny, very interesting. Anyway, I say Caribbean. I don't say Caribbean. I say Caribbean. I don't know why. I don't know why that is. Why is that? Why is that? It's not a choice. It's subconsciously. I see the word. I say Caribbean. Caribbean. Caribbean queen. Although no, that guy says it even different. So it's Caribbean and it's Caribbean. And then but Billy Ocean saying Caribou Queen, right? And he called it Caribou Queen. I don't know what that was about. Anyway, Christopher Columbus on this day. Yeah, Caribbean. He landed in the Caribbean. San Salvador Island, to be exact. Erstwhile, on this day in 1773, America's first insane asylum opens. I'm sure a 1773 American insane, they called it an insane asylum. I'm sure that was a nice place to be. On this day in 1799, Janine Genevieve Labrousse becomes the first woman to jump from a balloon with a parachute. 1799. I bet she was pushed. I'm not. Why is that a historic fact from this day? Why did somebody think enough to write that down? And how were they sure she was the first woman? 1799. They didn't have Google search. There wasn't like Nexus Lexus search. There wasn't anything like that. On this day, erstwhile, 1892, the Pledge of Allegiance is first recited by students in U.S. public schools. Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, so I have had, throughout my life, I've sort of evolved on the Pledge of Allegiance. Of course, the whole time I was doing it, that's programming. That's chief programming. The whole time I was participating in the Pledge of Allegiance, I was there. Wah, wah, Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. That whole thing. Kids, you do it right. And then, I got into college and started smoking weed. And then I'm like, wait a second, man. It's like, they shouldn't be forcing us to, so then I got that kind of thought. And I carried that sort of vibe on the Pledge of, I'm fine with it. I don't care. I'm not gonna go out and march on a Saturday to make people stop doing the Pledge of Allegiance. But I do kind of get it. It is kind of Soviet. And I do understand that, they were trying to bring, you gotta have some pride, all right? I mean, I guess you gotta have some sort of national fervor. I don't know. Anyway, it was on this day in 1892. Kids still do it, right? Is that still a thing? Or have super crazy people on the left already made that gone? I wouldn't be surprised if the Pledge of Allegiance had been gone for 10 years and nobody told us. Slow creep. That's how they would get rid of the Pledge of Allegiance. They wouldn't flip a switch and say, okay, tomorrow, no more pledge. It'll just be like, some schools this year, some schools next year. That'd just be slow creep. I don't know. Do they do it? Probably. My point is this. I ain't got a problem with it, but I do kind of get when people are like, you shouldn't be, kids can't think on their own. A kid in first grade shouldn't really be pledging an allegiance to something when he doesn't have the intellectual or moral capacity at this point in his life to really make these kinds of heavy decisions. He didn't choose where he was born. I mean, he just showed up here. He slid out of his mom in this country. His pledging allegiance? I get it, older, maybe be an adult and you got some jobs that have some important to it, some security import to it. Yeah, I get it. 40-year-old guys pledge. I'll show up to work every day, pledge allegiance that I won't sell my secrets to, the Soviets. But a kid, it seems a bit unnecessary, and it seems kind of obviously designed to make them view their allegiance to their country in the way that their maybe religion has instilled itself in them, which is, thoughtlessly. Baby kids grow up believing in God because from the time that they're in a crib, they've got an adult staring at them going, Jesus loves you, Jesus. They're told the sky is blue. So their whole life they go, that's what that color is. That color is blue. Same thing with, religion and the Pledge of Allegiance. On this day, 1892, first time we did the Pledge of Allegiance. On this day in 1901, President Theodore Roosevelt officially renames the Executive Mansion the White House. Yeah, it was on this day. I guess I kind of always thought it was the White House. I thought when they built it on the designs, it said the White House, but no. Theodore Roosevelt called it that. On this day in 1960, this was a big day in history. On this day in 1960, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev pounds his shoe on a desk at the United Nations to protest a Philippine assertion. That's right. The Philippine ambassador to the UN went hard on Nikita when he showed up there in New York, and Nikita wanted him to shut up. And the guy kept saying all these bad things the Soviets were doing. And Nikita took his shoe off and just started pounding it. Became an iconic image. leader of the Soviet Union, at the time believed to be one of the two superpowers, the leader, one of the most powerful men in the world, just banging his shoe. Oh, so undignified. So look at them Ruskies, those commies. They're barbarians. Look at them. Probably had a hole in his sock. And I love it was the Philippine guy that did it. See, and like everything it was all proxy. You're telling me the Philippine guy dude from the Philippines really wanted to square off publicly with Nikita Khrushchev? No, that Philippine ambassador guy, the American said, hey, you should do. You know that aid package we're sending you, those military bases we got there in the Philippines, you should do. you should talk some shit right to Khrushchev's face. And you see, a lot of naval dollars flowing through Seoul. Come on, man. You should get in his face. That's probably what happened. I'm sure the Philippine guy didn't really have a dog in that fight. He was just put up to it by the Americans who didn't want to do it themselves, because then it's like, look at the Americans go. You know what I mean? That's cool, though. That's good. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He's just banging his on this day, erstwhile, 1960, Khrushchev bangs his shoe. On this day, erstwhile, 1998. Oh, jeez. Hold on. Gotta cleanse the emotional and moral palate after having a little fun with old Nicky K banging his shoe. It was on this day in 1998 that the Matthew Shepard incident occurred. Matthew Shepard, if you remember this was just a terrible story. And I am telling you, I did not need this to be the anniversary, because there's some really terrible stories that are happening today in this ugly, ugly world. On this day in 1998, Matthew Shepard, a gay student at the University of Wyoming, dies 5 days after he was beaten outside a bar in Laramie. Oh, there's way too much of this in the world still. And this was 1998. This was just a shocking. Nope. And now my brain is thinking about the details. I'm like trying to move on, and my brain is going, hey, how about him being tied to the post for 5 days? I don't need that. My stupid brain. Stop it. Let's move on to lighter fare. Like on this day in 2000, this is not lighter. I was being, on this day in 2000, the USS Cole, a United States Navy destroyer, is badly damaged by 2 Al-Qaeda suicide bombers, killing 17 crew members and wounding at least 39. Now, this is pivotal. This 2000, I remember watching. This was, one of the modern attacks, and it's pivotal, I say, because it was the first time that I'd ever heard the word Al-Qaeda. Remember, this is 2000. Hadn't heard of this. These are the dudes. They had the little rubber dinghy, and they floated up alongside the big ass naval destroyer. And it was packed with bombs, and they just blew a giant gaping hole in it. A bunch of sailors died. It was the first real attack on an American military. I mean, this wasn't a normal thing. This was a massive story on this day in 2000. We thought we were going to war. The USS Cole had been bombed. What was going to happen next? How bad was this going to get? This was the biggest and most significant terror attack against United States military forces ever. And then 9/11 happened like a year later, and we all forgot about it. We're like, oh, it's those guys again. So we didn't stomp them out after the USS Cole, and a year later, they were able to do 9/11. On this day, 2000, the USS Cole is badly damaged by Al-Qaeda. On this day in 2019, the Hard Rock, I don't remember this. I had to click on this story and read it. This was a pretty significant story, but I don't remember. I really don't have any recollection of it. On this day in 2019, erstwhile, on this day, the Hard Rock Hotel in New Orleans collapses during construction, killing 2, injuring 40. I don't remember this, but I was looking at the pictures. It was pretty significant. I mean, nothing else was happening on this day of significance. That's the one thing. So that should have been the lead story. I just don't remember it. All right. Excuse me. There you have it. That's erstwhile on this day. Q1 is in the books. Now let's move on to my segment that I enjoy. It's not my favorite one. I almost said my favorite one. My favorite one, we all know my favorite is Dead's. This is birthdays. Bonum, bonum, bonum. They claim it's their birthday. These are people who say they were born on this day. I don't know. They apparently in some way, shape, or form have documentation to back that up. So who am I to judge? Born on this day in 1935, Luciano Pavarotti, Italian tenor and actor. He's dead. He dead now. He one of the deads. 2007. Pavarotti. Born on this day in 1947, Chris Wallace, American journalist. Chris Wallace, well, okay, so there's a lot to talk about here. Son of Mike Wallace, 60 Minutes, like terrible relationship with his dad. Like his dad was not a good dad growing up. There's like stories there. Chris Wallace will tell you the stories too. There's Chris Wallace on the record talking about his relationship with his dad. Got better, but was never great. Chris Wallace has this new show on CNN. I don't know. Is it even on CNN, or do you have to have like a phone? You got to watch it on CNN phone. I don't know. Whatever. It's a Chris Wallace show. And as with all of these kinds of shows, they're not about sitting down and watching the entire 30-minute show. They're about catching a 2-minute clip that circulates on, Twitter. You don't actually watch the show. You just watch clips. So that's how I'm familiar with this new Chris Wallace show. I don't even know if at this point it's new. It's just nobody's noticed it. It's probably been there for years. He sat down. He had the craziest conversation, Chris Wallace did, with Al Michaels, the iconic. I mean, is there a bigger play-by-play voice in America than Al Michaels? He's been doing it for 50 years. The guy's like the godfather, the current godfather of, sports. Do you believe in miracles? I mean, he's the Lake Placid Miracle on Ice guy. So he's a pretty interesting dude. He sat down with Chris Wallace and they had this conversation. They had talked about a lot of interesting things, but the most interesting thing that seemed to go viral was Al Michaels talking to Chris Wallace. Are you ready for this? Al Michaels told Chris Wallace, or Chris Wallace asked Al Michaels. He said, "Is this true, Al Michaels?" Al Michaels says here, I talked to many people, and they say me, everyone tells me, ask Al Michaels about this. Al Michaels, is it true that you have never in your life eaten a vegetable? And Al Michaels said, yeah, that's true. I've never. Al Michaels is like 80 years old, living his best life. The man basically says he exists on steak and scotch. That's pretty much all Al Michaels. He told a story about how when he was a kid, he grew up very poor in the Depression, and vegetables were not an everyday thing. And when vegetables were presented, they were presented as mandatory, like you had to do it. And he was a bit of a rebellious kid, so he just always got in the habit of pushing his vegetables to the side and not eating them. And his mom was not particularly, it was like the 19-whenevers. I don't know, the 1950s. His mom wasn't all up on nutrition, so he didn't eat vegetables. And he said he went his entire life without ever eating a vegetable. He said he can say, maybe a vegetable has snuck its way in, potatoes, he doesn't consider them vegetables. I don't think science does either. What are potatoes? Are they roots or potatoes? Whatever. Anyway. But yeah, he says without a doubt, he's never had a green vegetable. He's fine. And he's old, and he's healthy, and he's active, and he never had a vegetable. Happy birthday, Chris Wallace. Chris Wallace has probably had vegetables, but Al Michaels claims in an interview with Chris Wallace that he's never had vegetables. Born on this day in 1947, Chris Wallace, a man who's had vegetables. Al Michaels, not so much. On this day in 1949, the world gave birth to Carlos the Jackal. Carlos the Jackal is look, back when. So let me put it to you this way. Nowadays, like for the past 20 years or so, 25 years, let's say, there's been no doubt about what a terrorist is. Terrorist is a piece of shit human. A terrorist is a monster that walks among us who must be put down without any thought and any consideration. We know what terrorists are. We are seeing today what terrorists are. But, back in the 70s, it wasn't quite as well known. Terrorists were like dancing at Studio 54, and they were kind of famous, and they were dating models. Carlos the Jackal was like a rock star. He was like an international rock star. He was wanted for like the Munich killings. He was not Munich, the Olympic. I don't know what he did. He did a whole bunch of stuff. Carlos the Jackal. And, he was there's been movies made about him that like totally romanticize his lifestyle. And it's like, he's a terrorist. Anyway, Carlos the Jackal, born on this day in 1949. Is he dead? No, he's still alive. He's probably. Who is Carlos the Jackal? Does he have a real name? Is he in jail? What is his current situation? What do we know the whereabouts of Carlos the Jackal? I mean, I know that he's been superseded by a whole bunch of other horrible terrorists, but his name is Ilich Ramirez Sanchez. He's better known as Carlos the Jackal. He's a Venezuelan who conducted a series of assassinations and terror bombings from 73 to 85. A committed Marxist-Leninist, Ramirez Sanchez was one of the most notorious political terrorists of his era, protected and supported by the Stasi and the KGB. Oh, so that's what it was. He was allowed to run amok because he had Cold War protections. Anyway, he's a guy that's been mythologized, Carlos the Jackal. Born on this day in 1949. Born on this day in 1950, Susan Anton. You guys remember her? You Gen Xers remember her? Susan Anton was like, I don't know. This the 70s. There were no rules. You had Carlos the Jackal dancing at Studio 54. You had major celebrities being created out of thin air for no other reason than they were hot. And that was Susan Anton. Like, I don't even think Susan Anton was a notable model. I mean, she was obviously a model, but was she Cheryl Tiegs? You know, I mean, she wasn't like that level. She just all of a sudden started dating Dudley Moore. And, you know, a lot of pictures of her and Dudley Moore on the red carpet started to come out, and people started to go, hey, isn't that funny that 6'2" Nordic blonde is dating that little 4'3" elf? You know, that was sort of the thing. And she became famous as Dudley Moore's girlfriend. Other than that, I ain't got nothing else to say. I don't know what Susan Anton's deal is, other than she was born on this day in 1950. Born on this day in 1955. One of my favorites, Pat Denizio. He's dead now. That's terrible. Pat Denizio, rock star. One of the great bands of the 80s. One of the great bands that solidified my love for power pop, that solidified my love for garage punk, that solidified my love for Jingle Jangle, were the Smithereens. The Smithereens were a band that came out of the 1980s, and they were awesome. The Smithereens were great. And Pat Denizio was their leader. Pat Denizio was cool. Pat Denizio also, a period of time, man, he had prime era Belinda Carlisle in love with him. Like prime era, like, ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? Like that era Belinda Carlisle was like, oh, Pat, I love you. So good on him. Good on Pat Denizio, although he's dead now. I guess, you know, when did he die? How old did he live? 1955. So 55, that's 45, 55, 65, 62. 62. Okay, so the question for me at 54 years old is, would I die at 62 if I get to have like 5 years of a really torrid and nice, it seemed nice, relationship with peak Belinda Carlisle? Okay, so how old will my kid be? When it'll be, he'll be fine. 20s. Yeah, I might take that deal. I don't know. Pat Denizio had a cool life. Great band, cool guy, smart guy. Had Belinda Carlisle. Born on this day in 1955. Born on this day in 1962. Okay, so yesterday we started this new thing I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start pointing out that guy and that girl actors. These are people who, you know, we all know and we all recognize, but we don't know their names. That guy. Oh, I know that guy. Like, who did we do yesterday? What did we do yesterday for that guy? We did Peter Coyote a couple of days ago. I don't know. See, that's the thing about that guy actors. Oh, we did David Morse yesterday. For that guy. Well, celebrating a birthday today, we've got a that girl. And you know what? Honestly, if I'm being fair, she's not even really a that girl. But what she is because she only really did 2 movies. Hold on, let me pull these up. We're gonna look at her. She only did 2 movies, but here, let me find the right one for you because I want to make sure. I had such a crazy crush on her, man. Here, okay. Yeah, we'll start it here. Okay. She only did like 1 movie, but it's an iconic movie. And then she never did anything else, and she went away, but I've always remembered her. I even had a poster of her. It wasn't even a poster. It was like her Noxzema ad. Here. Happy birthday to, ladies and gentlemen, the Valley Girl, Deborah Foreman. Deborah Foreman, a that girl actor. Valley Girl. That movie is excellent. And that movie holds up. When I was a little kid, I saw Valley Girl for the first time. I was probably like 12 years old or something. Remember Nicolas Cage, Deborah Foreman? You don't remember Deborah Foreman. You remember Nicolas Cage. I remember Deborah Foreman. I saw Valley Girl, and I remember going, like, being 12 years old and expecting something, and then being done with that movie and going, wait, I feel something. That movie's, I'm going to watch it again. And I watched it a whole bunch of times. I've seen it. I don't know. I pulled it back I watched it with my own son like 3 years ago. Like, I just wanted to see what an 80s teen movie would do for him. He was like 10 years old. He liked it. He's like, that's a good movie. I go, I know it's a good movie. It really is, right? So Deborah Foreman, who played Julie Richmond, who I had a crazy crush on. God, she was so cute. Look at her right there. She's coming up. She's going to the dance. Looking all 80s cute. See, here's the story of Valley Girl. She was a girl from the Valley. She was considered a snob. She was considered a mall girl, right? That's her right there. And she went to the beach and she met a punk rocker from Hollywood, Nicolas Cage. And I just kind of liked him. Look at her. That's the look she gave him. That's her. That's her looking at Nick Cage. That's when you knew it was over for her. And it's just kind of a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. Snobby girl from the Valley and this like punk rocker dude. And everybody says she's bad, but he's bad for. Here's the other thing that I'll give you about Valley Girl, the movie. One of the greatest soundtracks of all time. That soundtrack is so badass, you guys. I'm serious. If you guys go right now to Spotify and just go to Valley Girl, and if you love not just 80s music, because there's lots of garbage 80s music, but if you love really cool 80s music from a particular era of like Southern California, it was punk, but it was also the beginnings of the skater sound, and it was new wave only because they didn't have another name for it. Man, it was such a cool era of music. We're talking like between 1980 and like 1984. And again, we're not talking about the pop era. We're talking about these bands and these groups that came. The Plimsouls. You don't know who the Plimsouls are, but they are all over that Valley Girl soundtrack. They are awesome. There's some Cars stuff too, but it's a great soundtrack. I think the greatest music soundtrack of all time. Certainly my favorite. Happy birthday, Deborah Foreman, the Valley Girl, born on this day in 1962. She is certainly one of those that girl actors, although maybe not, because she also did My Chauffeur. How do I know this? Because I told you I was obsessed with her. She did My Chauffeur. She My Date with a Demon. She did a bunch of stupid stuff. She never took off. Nick Cage did. Deborah Foreman didn't. Born on this day in 1968. Here's somebody who took off. I don't know what box to put this guy in. He's one of them there, jack of all trades, a 5-tool dramatist, if you will. Hugh Jackman, born on this day in 1968. You know what Hugh Jackman is? Hugh Jackman is like the theater kid who could kick your ass. That's who Hugh Jackman is. Hugh Jackman is the theater kid who does the Broadway songs and, all that kind of stuff, who's also like, leading the conference in sax, he's like one of the, and look, I know we all went to high school and we all had theater departments and we all looked at the theater department and especially the dudes in the theater department. And we're like, ugh. But every once in a while, there is like one dude who like does both, like wins state in solo monologue theater. Yeah, right. He won the state in solo monologue theater. Hey, he also won state in 125 wrestling. Sometimes those guys cross over. Hugh Jackman's got to be one of them dudes. Hugh Jackman's got to be one of those guys. Hugh Jackman, born on this day in 1968. Born on this day also in 1968. Umbilical cousins, if you will. Here, sad story. Here's a couple. We're going to do 2 in a row here of child stars. Born on this day in 1968, Adam Rich, Nicholas Bradford from 8 is Enough. Remember cute little Nicholas with his little haircut, his little bowl haircut. He died because, man, it's got to be tough peaking at 9 years old, right? You can't even appreciate it. It's like 9 years old. He was a big star. Adam Rich was a big star. When 8 is Enough went off the air, they built an entire new show around him. It was a fire engine show. It was like, I don't know, Emergency Los Angeles or something. I don't know, something like that. But he was a big star. He had something. And then, boom, he hit puberty and it all went away. And then, he spent the next 10 years of his life being adorable little Nicholas trying to get laid at frat parties. That's got to be a bummer. And then, people are like, so what are you doing now? This is like 22-year-old Adam Rich. So what are you doing now? It's crazy that you're here at this party. And he's like, well, I got a couple of things. I'm talking to Spielberg. He's probably lying. And then like years of that just starts to weigh on your soul. And then by the time Nicholas Bradford, Adam Rich is 35, he's just not, now he's been in and out of rehab because he's doing drugs because, man, that's a hard psychic cross to bear. The knowledge that life will never be as good for you again as it was at 9, and you couldn't even appreciate it at 9. So he died. He died because of the drugs. Adam Rich, Nicholas Bradford. He died. He died just he died this year. Holy crap. He died this year. Yeah, and actually, I do remember because I clicked on this not so recently. Well, click on it now. It says it doesn't say how he died. It doesn't, but in like the sentences before how he died, it talks about in and out of rehab and all that stuff. Here's what it says: death. Here's all it says on Wikipedia about the death of Adam Rich. Rich died at his Los Angeles home on January 7th, 2023, at the age of 54. Ugh. How about his personal life? Let's see. Okay, so let's start here. At age 14, he started smoking marijuana. Now, remember, at 14, Adam Rich is already done being Nicholas Bradford. He's already done being famous. He's formerly famous. He's a has-been at 14, so he's smoking weed, telling stories about hanging out with Christy McNichol, with the boys, right? That's what he's doing at 14 years old. At 14, he starts smoking marijuana. At 17, in 1986, he dropped out of high school. Okay. He almost died of a Valium overdose in 1989. In 1991, he was arrested and charged with attempted burglary of a pharmacy. In 1996, there was a media hoax in which a story had circulated that he'd been murdered. In 2002, Adam Rich was arrested for driving under the influence. He was in drug rehabilitation at least 3 times in the 2000s. As of 2013, he occasionally made personal appearances and has been marketing script ideas for TV shows and films. And then he died. Okay, so yeah, he had a terrible life. There you have it. So that's one way you can deal with peaking at a young age. Adam Rich, born on this day in 1968. He took the drug and alcohol way out. How about this guy? Born in 1970, another child star, took a different path. Ladies and gentlemen, happy birthday, Kirk Cameron. That's right, old Mike Seaver from Growing Pains. Kirk Cameron was, we talked about how big Adam Rich was. Kirk Cameron was even bigger. And Kirk Cameron at least experienced his fame at a time where you're going to enjoy some of the adult aspects of it, Kirk Cameron was like a late teenager, early 20s. Ooh, bad time to be a child star without a real prospect of an ongoing career, right? Because, when Kirk Cameron is starring on Growing Pains, he's the biggest star in the world, he's looking at Michael J. Fox, who is the exception to the rule. Michael J. Fox was the TV guy. Michael J. Fox could have also done the whole Adam Rich thing, but he didn't. Michael J. Fox popped. Michael J. Fox fell over, into Back to the Future, and then he was off to the races. He was a movie star now. That's the exception. So Kirk Cameron's looking at Michael J. Fox and then also looking at Adam Rich, going, well, that dude's kind of screwing up. And he had a choice to make. Well, I guess the choice would be, I'll take the Michael J. Fox superstardom route, but you know what I'm saying. There are a couple of paths. Kirk Cameron went a different path. When Kirk Cameron's career imploded as far as a mainstream viable actor in Hollywood, Kirk Cameron went the Jesus route, man. Kirk Cameron has made so much money being like a Jesus guy. He created a children's series about Bible Man or something like that, right? Good for him. Good for Kirk Cameron. He's not dead. Adam Rich is dead because Adam Rich was like, I can't believe I'm not famous anymore. I'm going to do drugs. And he's dead. And Kirk Cameron went, I can't believe I'm not famous anymore. Maybe there are other ways to be famous. And he went and, continued it. So there you go. Kirk Cameron, born on this day in 1970. Born on this day. I remember the thing about Kirk Cameron being like, because, he was like our age. Kirk Cameron on Growing Pains always had super hot girlfriends, right? Like, and they would go, like, he had one girlfriend who was Playmate of the Year. And like, we'd all seen those pictures because we were college kids or what, high school kids, whatever. We'd all seen those, like, she's so hot, man. And then it's like Kirk Cameron's new girlfriend on Growing Pains. And then the story started to come out about how Kirk Cameron's a virgin and he's super Christian. And we were all like, no way. No way he's not going for that. Because we all just assumed when you're 17 years old and you see a guy on a TV show with a super hot girlfriend, you just assume that guy is also, having his way with that super hot girlfriend in real life. Because actors, right? You just think, they're all just doing it behind dumpsters everywhere. And that's probably true to some extent, because as I've pointed out on my multiple streams, Hot people see each other and, just forget about it. Two hot people, you go to a party and you notice that there are two hot people missing, they're banging. That's what they're doing. That's what hot people do. Hot people know they're hot. They see each other, they see one another, and they go, well, and then, they don't even have to say anything, and they just walk out together, and they're gone for 20 minutes. And then they come back to the party, and they don't talk to each other. But I'm telling you, hot people. I don't know. Again, this is a stream of consciousness, folks. Sometimes we deviate from the plan. I do have a layout that I'm trying to stay to, but because, it's sometimes a 2-hour show, we got no commercials, no breaks, no news. I need to just keep streaming. So we do chase rabbits down rabbit holes, and hot people is the result. All right, born on this day in 1970, Kirk Cameron. That'll do it. There's one more. Born on this day in 2002, Iris Apatow. She's just Judd Apatow. And who's Judd Apatow's wife? I love Judd Apatow's wife. I mean, I loved her before she was Judd Apatow's wife. She was like just a really interesting actress. And I'm like, oh, I like her. Leslie. I don't know. Iris Apatow is Leslie Mann. That's it, Leslie Mann. Iris Apatow is the daughter of Leslie Mann and Judd Apatow. So, she's going to be a movie star. It's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time of her super powerful dad to, create the right Michael J. Fox-esque Back to the Future project, but she's got Maude, her sister Maude. I like Maude. You guys know Maude Apatow? Maude Apatow is funny because I believe Maude Apatow starred out like her first role. Or was this Iris? This might have been Iris. Do you guys remember the viral video that Comedy or Die put out? It was one of the first great Comedy or Die videos called The Landlord, where it was Will Ferrell being harassed by his landlord, and it was just a little baby. It was like a little toddler banging on his door, going, "Get the landlord." I think that was Iris Apatow, or maybe Maude Apatow, or maybe it was Adam McKay's daughter. I don't know. Whatever. Moving on. We move on. Let's do the deads. This is what I like. My favorite part of the show is deads. These are the people who have died. These are the people who have died. We're going to list them off, and we're going to talk about their life resume, and we're going to decide based on our own understanding of heaven or hell. We're going to decide whether they went to heaven or hell. We're going to start things off 1978. All right, let's get started right here. 1978. This person died in 1978. Are they in heaven or hell? Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day Nancy Spungen died. Nancy Spungen. First of all, what an awful last name. Spungen. That's not a good, first of all, that's not an attractive name. Like, it's Spungen. And Nancy's a great name. Nancy, well, wait a second. Yeah, she would have been born in Nancy I was going to say Nancy's one of them dead names. You don't see Nancy a lot anymore. She would have been born in the era where we still saw Nancy's. Nancy Spungen is, of course, Sid and Nancy. She is the girlfriend of Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols. She was murdered on this day in 1978 by Sid Vicious in a drug. Well, was he murdered by her? That's the whole thing. Let me just go out on a limb. Yeah, she was murdered by him. That's just my opinion. What do I know? I don't know. I've just seen all the stuff. I'm fascinated by this story. this story of that night in the Chelsea Hotel, the night that Nancy Spungen was stabbed to death, is a fascinating story. And here's also, because I am sort of versed on this story. I do like this story. I'm fascinated by it. I will say without a doubt that Nancy Spungen is in hell, because she was not. She was not. We'll just leave it at that. All right, dead on this day in 1978, Nancy Spungen. Dead on this day in 1989, Jay Ward, ladies and gentlemen. We're putting Jay Ward in heaven. Who is Jay Ward? He created Rocky and Bullwinkle. Jay Ward Productions, one of the great animators in American history, and one of the great contributors to our culture the last 50 years. Hey, Bullwinkle. Yeah, Rocky and Bullwinkle. Come on. Hey, Rocky. Boris and Natasha. Love them. There you have it. So he's in heaven. We're putting Jay Ward in heaven. Dead on this day in 1997. Oh, man. This guy died in a way. This guy died in an awful way. Like a way that you wouldn't want for this guy. Because this guy, first of all, putting him in heaven. Don't even need to tell you his name. We're putting him in heaven. Because, well, I'll explain. It was on this day in 1997 that John Denver died. John Denver. Remember John Denver? Remember John? Well, geez, good Lord, man. John Denver was so famous. So famous. You kids have no idea how famous John Denver was in 1977. All right, just throwing out a random year from the 70s. Who's the biggest star in the world in 1976? John Denver. John Denver was huge. He was a singer. Then they made him a movie star, and it was inscrutable why he was allowed these opportunities for all of these, jobs, and he did them good. John Denver's an actor? Are you kidding me? No way. And then you see Oh God, and you're like, shit, that's a good movie. Because we know George Burns can't act. George Burns ain't an actor. George Burns is just like, damn God. Yeah, that's all George Burns did. The heavy lifting in that movie was done by probably Terry Garr, right? She was probably the only real actress. But John Denver did great as an actor. Then it was the 70s were a time when networks were like, I don't know, we got an hour on Wednesday. Hey, John Denver, you want to just, I don't know, do something? And then all these people just had TV shows. Like there was probably multiple John Denver shows where it was just him, he sings a song, then he brings out the Muppets, and then the Muppets do a, it was crazy. It was the 70s. There were no rules. John Denver was also an amateur pilot. What? Is that a word? Is that a thing? Is there such an amateur? I don't want to hear that. There should be no amateur pilots. It should be all, well, I guess that means someone doesn't get paid. What I'm saying is John Denver, he liked to fly. He built planes in his garage, and he built a plane in his garage. And on this day, it failed him. Why? Because you shouldn't build planes in your garage. That's a pretty solid rule of thumb for my life. I mean, it's one I don't even have to write down because it's so obvious to me. You don't build a plane in your own garage and then fly it. You have to have some humility. Like you have to understand that maybe you're not the best guy to be figuring out the aerodynamics of this in your garage with a tape measure. That maybe you, John Denver, sunshine on my shoulder, maybe you could farm that duty out to, I don't know, like an aerospace engineer or something. He died on this day. Where is he? He's in heaven. We put him preemptively in heaven. He's John Denver. My God, he wasn't handsome. God, what kind of weird category do you put John Denver in? He's first among equals. I mean, I don't know what other category do you put John Denver in. He wasn't a heartthrob. Women didn't want to have sex with him. Men didn't want to hang out with him. His songs were nice. And that's like the way to describe John Denver's songs. They weren't nice. None of them are bangers. There's not a John Denver song that gets put on in a club at 1:00 in the morning and the place goes wild. And there never was. It was never that guy. I don't know. I don't get it. John Denver, he's in heaven, but we don't know why. Seemed like a nice guy. Dead on this day in 1997. Dead on this day in 1999. We're going to preemptively put this guy in hell too, because although, again, this goes back to my, I say this all the time. If these other people were putting in hell, I think I might want to go to hell. Because sure, what am I going to do? What am I going to do in heaven with a Jay Ward drawing Rocky and Bullwinkle card? That's not going to be fun. I would rather be down in hell drinking beer and listen to Wilt Chamberlain tell stories about doing the entire Playboy calendar. I want to hear that. That's fun. That's going on in hell. Wilt Chamberlain. That's who it is. Wilt Chamberlain. He died on this day in 1999, and he's probably in hell. But once again, maybe I'd rather be with Wilt Chamberlain. Dead on this day in 2020. We're going to do one more of these because she deserves it. This is another one of them That Girl actors. She died on this day. Now, this is the quintessential That Girl actor. This woman was in everything for 40 years, and you don't know her name. You don't. You know her. You see her, and you go, oh, I like that lady. I've seen her in everything all the time my entire life. Ladies and gentlemen, it was on this day that we lost Conchata Ferrell. Conchata Ferrell, and we're putting her in heaven. Look at that lady. That lady was awesome. That lady was in everything. Where do you want to start? BJ and the Bear? Okay. She's a regular in BJ and the Bear. You had Soap. She was in everything from the 1970s to the 1980s. She's, of course, best known to younger generations. I mean, she finally popped. She got her thing that she stuck on. Wasn't a show that I watched, so I don't really give her credit, but I know that it was the number one show in America. She was the housekeeper for like the entire run of 2.5 Men, right? She was what was her name in that? I forgot her name. Oh man, she was not afraid to. She was a ballsy woman. She was awesome. Look at her, Conchata Ferrell. Yeah, she's going to heaven. You're damn right she is. That woman was in everything from 1975 through the moment of her death. Conchata Ferrell. There you go. That's going to do it. Those are the people who died. Those are the people who died. All right, let's move in now to the fourth quarter. This is where we run down all the events of today. We run through and we give you all the things that are trending, the hot topics, the current events. It's also when I remind you that if you want to support this kind of talk radio, the kind that terrestrial radio doesn't really want to support, because we don't do politics. That's right. We don't get in the weeds. We don't care how you voted. We don't do red or blue. Non-divisive real talk radio, the kind of talk radio you wish you could have with your neighbor. That's what we do here. If you support that, please drop us a little something in the Venmo or the Cash App. We've been doing this for 2 years now, and it ain't easy, and it sucks, and we exist because of your gratuities. So help us out if you can. Thank you. All right, moving now into all of the things that are trending. Oh, I did want to mention one last thing. I'm sorry, as far as the deads go, because this is just, I haven't even seen it confirmed. Here's where I saw it. Somebody with an awful lot of credibility in this particular area has tweeted about it. And I did see one other news source that comes out of Oklahoma that was confirming it. But Walt Garrison has apparently passed away. Walt Garrison, a Dallas Cowboy great, Dallas Cowboy Hall of Famer. He's not in the Ring of Honor, though. I was shocked to see that. I was like, Walt Garrison, man, he is the Dallas Cowboy of Dallas Cowboys. Born and raised in Denton, went to went to Louisville High School. Was a killer defensive player. Walt Garrison was like the best linebacker in the state of Texas. He ended up going up to Oklahoma State, taking a scholarship, dominating as a defensive player, although albeit as a freshman. So he wasn't getting a lot of time because this is back in the 1960s when freshmen weren't really allowed to play. Didn't have the whole red shirt and all that kind of stuff. But going into his sophomore year, they switched. The coach said, look, Walt, how are you at running the ball? And they switched him to running back, and he became obviously a terrific running back. Cowboys drafted him. I think he was like a late round pick. I don't think he was a big round pick, but he ended up being Calvin Hill's backfield teammate for a number of years. Who else did he play back there with? Anyway, here's a great quote. Walt Garrison was a character. He was purely Texas. He was a real Dallas Cowboy, born and raised. Everything about him was Dallas Cowboy. He was also known as Mr. Dependability because he always showed up. He was that stoic cowboy guy. You need something done, you get Walt Garrison. To that point, Don Meredith has a great quote about his teammate and an old friend, Walt Garrison. Don Meredith said, let's see, where is the quote? Let me get this. On speaking of Garrison's dependability, Don Meredith, at the time quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, Don Meredith said, if it was third down and you needed 4 yards, if you get the ball to Walt Garrison, he going to get you 5. And if it was third down and you needed 20 yards, if you get the ball to Walt Garrison, by God, he's going to get you 5. That's awesome. Walt Garrison, legend, Cowboys legend. As rumors are percolating here, you know what? Let me look at it. Let me see if it's confirmed, because I didn't have it confirmed. I just saw it from a friend of mine who I know has ties to Oklahoma State University. Yeah, let's see it. It would be probably Oklahoma State University that would. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, okay, here it is. WFAA. 48 minutes ago. Okay, so WFAA is confirming Dallas Cowboy legend Walt Garrison dies at 79 years old. There you have it. Okay, so Walt Garrison died today. The old cowboy. All right, so now let's move on to the issues of the day. And then that is the issue. That's certainly here in North Texas, where we do this show from. The One Percenter compound, high above beautiful Highland Park, Texas, where we do this show. It's a big deal going on. All right, so let's get started. Hey, didn't Walt Garrison have a steakhouse downtown? I feel like Walt Garrison has a place that had a place somewhere downtown that I used to, because I used to live down there. I feel like I used to walk by it. All right. Israel. Okay, so let's start off at the top. These are all the things that are trending today, the things that everybody's talking about. Israel, 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 for obvious reasons. Let me show you this. This is amazing. This is, the art. What do we call this? Life imitating art, or here, let me get to it. I want you to watch this. This is from The Daily Show. This is from The Daily Show from 10 years ago. Okay. Hold on. Let me just show you this. Again, this is The Daily Show 10 years ago. This is pretty amazing. Elon Musk tweeted this earlier today, and he said, this is The Daily Show 9 years ago today. But now I'm reading a thing that says it's 10 years ago, so whatever. But watch this. On the subject of, obviously, Israel, here's Jon Stewart from 10 years ago. Watch this.
In fact, we'll start tonight in the Middle East, where Israel...
What? Israel isn't supposed to defend itself?
Oh, yeah, if Mexico bombed Texas, will we exercise
What other countries held to the same standard as Israel?
People that want to destroy our territory?
What
What is the
4,000
matter
year
with you? It's the only democracy in the Middle East, you turd!
Self-hating Jew?
10 years ago.
That was weird. Anyway, what I was saying was last
Gets
Thursday
weirder.
saw the start of a new ground offensive launched by Israel.
Oh,
the Palestinians have a country! Tradition! Tradition!
Holy
10 years ago. Remember this
Look,
10 years
obviously
ago.
there are many strong opinions on this issue, but just merely mentioning Israel or questioning in any way the effectiveness or humanity of Israel's policies is not the same thing as being pro-Hamas.
So you're against murdered children?
Free Gaza! Free Palestine!
Illegal occupation. The Zionist pig!
You know what? Why don't we just talk about something lighter, like Ukraine?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Wow, 10 years ago. That was some comedy writers who truly understood the ways of the world and decided to a little bit of political commentary there. How crazy is that? 10 years ago, man. That shit could have been written last night. that is amazing. That's why that show is truly something special, and history will acknowledge that. I mean, those of us who watched the prime Jon Stewart Daily Show every single night, we know what that was. That was the last great nightly news show in America. It was. And yeah, it was veiled in comedy. There was absolutely some comedy. But if you were smart enough, or if you were watching for the right reasons, I mean, my God, there was some real social commentary and some real news and some real information at that show, bro. I didn't watch the Noah, what was his name? Yeah, I don't even know his name. I didn't watch, I don't know. I just felt like I was done. I felt like I was just done after Jon Stewart left. I was like, yeah, I don't, okay. So Israel is obviously in the news today. I am avoiding the thing that I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to show. Okay, so let's just go ahead and say the words. Let me put the two words together. Let me form it in my mouth, and let me just throw it out there because it's an ugly thing to put out there. But dead babies. There you go. That's it. That's the big story surrounding Israel today. CNN is running with it. Oh my God, CNN is you guys. CNN is very upset about showing you these pictures, but they're going to show you the pictures. But guys, notice in the top it says disturbing graphic images. But guys, CNN is really upset. They don't want to do this, but they have to do this. And you know what? We're going to do it after this commercial for Carnival Cruises. So sit tight, and then we're going to show you dead babies on the other side of this Carnival cruise line. Come on and cruise with Carnival. And then it's like Mickey Mouse. And then they come back. Sad news out of Israel. CNN has made the editorial decision to show you these pictures. So for days we've been hearing the story about the dead babies. We've been hearing stories about how these Hamas terrorists went into these hospitals and they went into these nurseries and they just summarily executed babies and toddlers and sick children and all that kind of stuff. And when that story first came out, it was confirmed by Israeli authorities. And like I said, like my first feeling is, of course, yes, right. They are in the throes of a war. Sense, truth, none of that stuff is a priority. The priority right now is what Israel wants to do in defense of the Israeli people. So that story comes out. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. They killed babies, did terrible things. That's how awful these people are we're fighting against. Want to help us fight them? They killed babies. So that's a story that came out, and I immediately, my propaganda flag went up. I went, okay. This is like the Ghost of Kiev. You know, remember, and we all knew the Ghost of Kiev was propaganda, but it was fun propaganda. The Ghost of Kiev was the story that emerged out of Kiev, out of the early days of the Ukraine war. The Ghost of Kiev was this Red Baron-esque fighter pilot, this brave hero of the Ukrainian Air Force who had taken down like 20 MiGs and all that. It wasn't true. But newspapers around the world, they went with it because it's a good story and, you know, whatever, but it's not true. So those are the things, those are the kind of propaganda things. Why was that important to just go with it? Well, because those people needed something to believe in. Right. So the people of the Ukraine at that point, you go with it. You're like, yeah, a hero will rise. It's not real, but whatever gives people the faith to push in through the most trying situations, you know, you go with it. This is different. This is like exploiting the concept of absolute brutality. So if dead babies as propaganda is a bit troubling. So my propaganda flag went up and I was like, man, I don't know. But then, as I said yesterday, and I asked us all to do that, do I believe there's a possibility that the story about dead babies is propaganda and that the Israelis are running with it because it helps their cause? If people believe that's true. Do I believe that's possible? Yes. But then the other question I had to ask myself is, do I believe Hamas terrorists, after all the video that I've seen, do I believe that Hamas terrorists are capable of doing this act? And the answer is also yes, without a doubt. Without a doubt, as troubling and as terrifying a concept it is to think that these people could be so subhuman that innocent babies could be, you know, just executed, burned alive, thrown into the fire, whatever. I have not seen the pictures. Every time CNN has put it up, every time we're going to show you some very troubling pictures, and we're gonna give you a second to sort of prepare yourself for it. So we're gonna take a quick break after this word from Lexus. Dead babies on the other side of the Lexus break. CNN doesn't need to be showing these pictures. Nobody needs to be showing these pictures. This is if somebody sends you, hey, check out these dead baby pictures, and you go, okay, and you click on it. I'm not saying you're irredeemable, but I'm saying that you need, in that moment before you click on it, you need to just stop, take a moment, and think about the last baby you held in your arms. Then you still want to click on it and see then go ahead. And if that's the case, then man, come on. You're not a good person. You're not irredeemable. But understanding that just looking at this stuff, and look, people will give you, well, when you look at it, it just fuels the fire for other people. That's not what it's about. It's when you look at it, you darken your own soul. That's what it's about. It's about darkening your soul, man. I'm not a religious man, and I'm not necessarily a man of faith, but I do believe that there is something to this soul talk. And I do believe that it is in our best interest to keep our soul as pearly white as possible. White being the stand-in for purity, you know what I mean? Not race, you know what I mean? You don't want to have black lung soul. And when you look at these pictures and when you see these pictures, just a little bit, incrementally, bit by bit, it lowers your bar. It lowers your karmic bar, your moral bar, the things that you're willing to accept. Look, there is a reason that there are atrocities in this world that the regular person doesn't ever have to have witnessed. Now, simply because we can witness it, we're supposed to, you know, have these. I don't know. Anyway, I'm disgusted by CNN right now and their decision to show these pictures. And they're not being shrieking violets about it. It's not like, Okay. We've made the editorial decision. We got all the big wigs together and we got in a conference room and we hashed this out. Oh, we had fiery debate for hours about this, about whether or not what is the journalistically responsible path to take when confronted with this kind of evidence of absolute barbarism. I'm sure that's what they say they did. And maybe had they gone, we're going to show it once. Maybe that would be, but no, they are hammering these pictures. I think they first started showing them at about 10:45 this morning, and I think between 10:45 and me signing on here, CNN probably showed those pictures 5 times, and I know because I had to actively mute the volume and put my eyes away from the TV screen and train it directly on the computer, whatever stupid story I was reading. So, do I believe? Here we are. We sit on this day, a couple of days. The dead baby story has been floating around for 3 days, so now I sit here at 1:12 Central Standard Time, and I must ask myself, do I believe the dead baby stories? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I'm just completely grossed out that I have to acknowledge that that's something that human beings did to other human beings, nay, infants. We wouldn't call them other human beings because that suggests that maybe they had some sort of a role in their undoing. These were infants. They had no role in anything. They're just infants. So that's ugly. All right, so Israel. Now we're moving on from that because again, we don't do you can get finer coverage of Israel and Hamas with other people. Those people have well-established agendas. Go decide what you want to believe to be true and go find them. But that's going to be the extent of our conversations about Israel. Except for this one. Secretary, hold on. Blinken, Secretary Blinken is over there. Secretary Blinken's in Tel Aviv. He just gave a speech. Look, say what you will about, about politics, whatever. Our White House seems to be firmly on the side of the Israelis here. Biden gave a fiery speech yesterday in front of Jewish community leaders. Sent Blinken over there today. Blinken's over there talking with people. He's at these, there's these big memorial events. Blinken gave another fiery speech about an hour ago in Tel Aviv. So, there is no wavering as to where America's loyalties should be seen. It is definitely we're on the side of Israel 100%. Now, what are we going to do to that extent? That's the other interesting question about this. And I know I said I wouldn't get into the weeds, but what does Israel want? Like, does Israel want America getting involved and taking a role? If it means that America's going to give a whole bunch of F-16 fighters and, advisory support and all that kind of stuff, maybe they'd be willing to let America be involved. But what if America starts wanting to dictate the terms, which we here in America tend to want to do, which I think is our obligation to the world. If we're going to take this role as America's captain, or the world's captain, the world's leader, we are the most powerful. That's who we are, man. That's what we signed up for. Now, ask yourself if you don't want to be that anymore. That's a different question. But who we are is that today. So there are certain obligations. So dictating the terms of this, that may not be something Israel wants. Israel might want us to just shut the fuck up and move. Just move away from it. Just shut up. All we want from you in America is to say we support you, Israel. We got this. That might be what they want. I don't know. We'll see. Speaker. Let's move on to the speaker story. And this is going to be the end of the politics as far as I'm concerned. We have no speaker. We have a completely dysfunctional Congress. There's no speaker. We've got a budget situation that is roaring down the tracks right at us like a freight train. That's just at the end of November, right? So we've got that in November. Then we've got this war. We've got wars on 2 fronts. One, the hotly debated Ukraine war, which was the only thing people wanted to talk about forever. And now suddenly Israel. Now we've added Israel on top of that. And we have no speaker. We have no functioning. We have no mechanism for our Congress to make any kind of official anything because it's not working. Basically, Congress right now is like, a child's toy. You ever go to a kid's house and they have child's toys all over and no toys have batteries in them? That's what the United States Congress is right now. It has no batteries. The back, the clip thing, the door of the back battery thing on the back, it's missing. That's gone and there are no batteries in there, just a little ribbon. That's the United States Congress. The House Republicans were on the verge of open revolt Wednesday after the ideologically fractious conference failed to coalesce around. Would you look at you know what? I always make fun of journalists and how they write, right? I always get angry. I'm like, God, that's bad diction. Holy crap. This person who wrote this is really, look at these words. Oh my, I got to do my tongue twister gymnastics. I got to do my warm-ups. I'm going to read this again. Listen, this is a beautifully written sentence. House Republicans were on the verge of open revolt Wednesday after the ideologically fractious conference failed to coalesce around a speaker nominee, leaving the chamber rudderless and leaderless for an 8th day. Oh, I don't know who wrote that, but that is freaking gorgeous. That is perfect. That is journalism. Good for you. And I feel it incumbent upon myself to point this out because I always lose my shit when somebody writes something that's just wrong, or the sentence is wrong, or the punctuation is wrong, or they use a word incorrectly, which happens all the time. That is freaking gorgeous. Coalesce. Ideologically fractious. Coalesce. Rudderless, leaderless. Oh, it's just beautiful writing. The inability of the House Republicans to agree on who will lead them has left the chamber in an effective standstill since Rep. Kevin McCarthy, California, was ousted as Speaker last week. Unable to consider any legislation to aid Israel in its war against Hamas or pass any appropriation bills to avoid a potential government shutdown in mid-November. Neither issue produced enough urgency among the caucus for Republicans to quickly elect a speaker, as many had hoped. Again, highlighting the conference's deep divisions. It's a mess. So Jim Jordan ain't the guy anymore. It looks like we're going to go with Scalise. We're going to trot out Scalise. I don't think he's got. Come on. Do you remember how long it took to get McCarthy? Remember how long it took to get McCarthy? Like 19 votes? Scalise wasn't an option then. What do you think he's going to be an option now? What makes you think that he's going to? This is a mess. Ugh. Walgreens is trending. We talked about Walgreens. We talked about Walgreens and how they were about to get hit with a strike. They are in the full-fledged flux. Flux? Is that a word? I don't know. I needed a word there. I said flux. Remember, stream of consciousness. I'm just talking unfiltered. Walgreens, we talked about the strike that Walgreens pharmacists were going out on. Well, they're out on it. Walgreens customers have now been affected by pharmacists' walkout as hundreds of stores go dark. Patients expecting to go days, if not weeks, without meds. Pharmacists have walked out of hundreds of Walgreens locations nationwide in a dispute over working conditions. The workers claim current pressures have led to patients waiting days and weeks without any prescriptions. Some stores have temporarily closed due to the lack of staff, although the majority of the 9,000 nationwide Walgreens stores remain open. All right, there you go. Walgreens pharmacy strike. Looks like it's time to go to CVS. Switch over. Loyalties be damned. I'm a Walgreens guy. I'm a Walgreens guy because I'm from Chicago, and Walgreens is a Chicago company, and Walgreens are everywhere in Chicago. And honestly, I don't think I ever even saw CVS until I moved to Texas. Now Chicago has CVSs too. But I'm a Walgreens guy. I always liked Walgreens. Walgreens was the liquor store. People didn't get that. When I first moved to Texas, we went to a party, like one of my first nights here in Texas. We went to a party, and there was a Walgreens across the street from the place where we were. And I said, I'm going to Walgreens. And they're like, what for? And I go, I'm going to get a bottle of wine. They're like, you can't get a bottle of wine at Walgreens. I'm like, of course you can. What do you mean you can't get a bottle? Walgreens has an awesome. Well, Walgreens in Texas doesn't. Walgreens in Chicago, where I'm from, has a big liquor department and always did. Although, interestingly enough, I don't think Walgreens has a liquor department anymore. I think they got rid of that. Anyway, I'm a Walgreens guy, but I'm fine with CVS. I can't really tell any difference these days between, like, if you were to blindfold me and then just spin me around 10 times, put me in a car, drive me somewhere, and then march me into a store and then take off the blindfold and say, in 5 seconds, are you in a Walgreens or a CVS? I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference. You can't tell the difference. They're the same damn thing. Exact same. The actors are on strike too. This is this little segment of the show we're calling 3 strikes. 1 strike, Walgreens. 2 strikes, actors. The actors strike isn't going well. was all about the writers. They don't care about you actors. Are you kidding me? The actors have zero leverage, zero, and rightfully so, because in every other aspect of life, actors have all the advantages in Hollywood. Actors are already wildly played. It's a meritocracy. If you put butts in box office seats, you're gonna get paid. That's how actors get paid. But they're on strike, right? And they went on strike and they were supporting the writers. And the writers really did need the support. The writers who create this stuff from whole cloth, writers who look at a blank white page and then write The Sopranos. Writers actually deserve some credit for creating something from nothing. Actors are just pretenders, and they're a dime a dozen. And I don't understand what they think they're going to accomplish by going out on strike. Like, how about this? Oh, you don't want to act anymore? Okay. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a casting call for your role, and 500 people have no problem taking your role, actor boy from some WB series. Really? You're on a WB series and you're walking a picket line. You ought to be thinking about what you're going to do after the WB series, because you don't want to be one of them people who were on a WB series once and then screwed your entire career because you walked a picket line. You're an actor. You're a generation away from being completely replaced by AI anyway. And it's not like, oh, you think what, Leonardo DiCaprio's never going to act again? That's it. He's never. Whatever happened to Leonardo DiCaprio? Well, the strike happened and he stopped working. No. At some point, somebody's going to want Leonardo DiCaprio in a movie and they're going to pay him a lot of money. He's going to go, okay. And you know what? If Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't take that money, you know who will? Lester Starbing. Who's Lester Starbing? He's nobody now, but he's about to become a big star because Hollywood will be like, Lester Starbing can do this better than... And you know what? Put Lester Starbing in a couple of movies, and all of a sudden, he's a legit star. So these actors, they got nothing. And I just think it's so comical. What do you, well, you're not going to be famous anymore? Come on, actors. You got nothing. You got nothing, actors. You're replaceable. Ugh. Anyway, I don't look. And besides, maybe I want to be an actor. Oh, well, you got an opening on my favorite TV show? Okay, yeah, I don't give a shit. Oh, how much are you going to pay me? You're going to pay me that much? Wait, what is the least amount you're going to pay me? Oh, minimum for me for a day work is going to be like $600. Okay, that's fine. No, I'm not complaining. I'll do it. And then what? It gets picked up the series, and all of a sudden now I'm making what, 30 grand a week? Oh, I'm not complaining. I don't care. Oh, the show's now a hit, and we're negotiating in our second series run. And now I don't want 30 grand a week. Now I want $250,000 a week, and you're going to give it to me? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stop doing that. Yeah, we're going to... Actors have nothing. I appreciated when the actors went out on strike. Like, and again, in the most actory way, this was such a BS actor thing from the very beginning. Actors decided to go out on strike in a show of support for writers. First of all, one of the things you need to understand is actors are always kissing writers' ass because writers write shit for actors, and actors want great shit to do, and writers are the ones who do it. And so actors tend to understand writers and tend to kiss writers' asses. Nobody else kisses writers' asses. Directors hate writers, producers hate writers. Actors, however, do. So the actors went out on strike in support of the writers. Why? Because, kiss a writer's ass, get a good role. That's get a role written for you, but they blew it. They should have gone back. They should have said, we're done with the strike. What were they gonna do? There was nothing being written. Everything in Hollywood would shut down. This is my point. It was hollow support at best. You actors went on strike at a time when Hollywood was shut down. Oh, how brave of you. Stupid. Also auto workers. Okay, the third strike. First strike, Walgreens. Second strike, actors. Third strike, auto workers. Ford plants in Kentucky have now been shut down. The United Auto Workers strike, which is entering its second month now, has spread. The United Auto Workers has unexpectedly expanded its U.S. strike at Ford Motor Company to a highly profitable SUV. I'm going to read this right. United Auto Workers has unexpectedly expanded its U.S. strikes at Ford Motor to a highly profitable SUV and truck plant for the automaker in Kentucky. The strike, effective 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time Wednesday at Ford's Kentucky truck plant, employs 8,700 United Auto workers. They produced the Ford Super Duty pickups and the Ford Expedition and the Lincoln Navigators. Okay, so there you go. 8,000 more. 1, 2, 3 strikes. Everybody's striking. Workers of the world unite. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, don't draw any correlations to anything in the past. I'm just saying, 2023, workers of the world unite. And by that, I mean the middle class. I mean us. I mean all of us in the middle. Let's all of us get together. Rise up. Make me God. And then, we'll go from there. Let's see. What else do we have? What else is trending? We went through the actors. Yeah, the actors are no fun. Oh, California crazy. California crazy. There's a new bill. California's always got these bills. Let's talk about this. What do you think of this? New California law could force people with mental illness to get treatment. California's got a new law that's going to force you. The state is going to force you, if it determines that you're crazy, they're going to force you to get mental health treatment. Ooh, you know me, big advocate for not necessarily, any one type of mental illness, big advocate for having mental health conversations, a big advocate for let's talk about what's going on up here. It's because we all got this. We all keep it inside. It's like the last great taboo, really talking about how our brain works, how our mental state affects everything that we do. And because it's a problem, because, we all believe in liberty and freedom, but liberty and freedom has to come with some degree of responsibility. And when you are mentally incapable of recognizing what the responsible thing to do is, we have a problem in a free society. So we do have to have some attention paid to our. I mean, there are people. What's the cliche? Fall through the cracks. There are people who fall through the cracks. There are people with no brothers. There are people with no friends, no family, no nothing, and they're fucking nuts. And they're living on the streets, and that nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about them. Nobody knows about them. Whatever the roll of the dice that determined their lot in life was, they are where they are, and they're crazy and they're dangerous. Not. By the way, that's the other thing. Not all people who are in serious mental health situations are dangerous. Sometimes they're dangerous to themselves and they're dangerous to others, and that's when we all need to get involved. Sometimes they're not dangerous, they're just screwed up in the head. Sometimes they're fun. Sometimes crazy people can be fun, but we do need to be more serious about it. So anyway, let me read this law. Let's talk about what this new California law is before I have any opinion on it. The law is part of efforts to tackle homelessness in the Golden State. Okay, so that is something that I agree with. Homelessness, the problem of homelessness in this country has a lot to do with the problem of mental health in this country. You are not a normal person if you're okay living on the street. If you choose to live on the street like that, these people, homeless people, all have some degree. Look, I believe that we all have something. Understanding what it is, working around it, or maybe even, people who are undiagnosed who never even gave a thought to what it is that they have. They have just lived their life and they have been able to appropriately navigate whatever this thing is. They know how to live their life. As a lot of people need help. Some people need tools, and there are tools. If you have these little hiccups, why do you always start fights at Thanksgiving dinner? Why are you that guy? Why do you always get offended so easily when somebody says, why are you that? We all have these things. Many of us have them to a much larger extent. We're all curious little snowflakes. We are all individuals with our own little thing. So I'm all for that. The law is part of an effort to tackle homelessness in the Golden State, with local government complaining their hands are tied if a person refuses to receive mental health help. However, it has also raised concerns from civil liberty advocates who worry it will. Is also raised concerns from civil liberty advocates who worry it will allow the state to overimpose its will on individuals. The law, first introduced by State Senator Susan Talamantes Eggman, her name is Eggman, will update situations. When this intervention can be considered and create the first ever meaningful transparency. Fuck you and your political speak. What does this thing do? Just tell me what this law does. Does this law mean that somebody who's pissed at me can call the police and they'll kick in my door at 3 o'clock in the morning and drag me into a rubber room sight unseen? Is that, because that's a problem. That's a real problem. I don't know what this law is, but anyway, there it is. You want to learn about this law? Go ahead. Google California crazy. California crazy law. Okay, here we go. You want to talk about California crazy? Here's a couple of people. I just want to knock these two numbskulls' heads together and be done with them. I'm done with you two. Boy, I almost got the old hate wagon cranked up last night during Radio Misfits, which is the 9 o'clock stream I do with James Parker. James Parker and I, we have a nice little 9 o'clock stream that we do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. No 9 o'clock stream tonight because my kid's got a football game. Whew. Talk about that later. Got to tell you, a little bit nervous. Where was I? These two, Jada and Will. Last night on Radio Misfits, we kind of touched on it, but we didn't have time. We didn't have time to go into the story. James was already familiar with the story, so, we didn't really get into the weeds on it. I want to get into the weeds on the story. We won't do that here either. But, man, okay. So, Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. First of all, Will Smith is the star, right? Can we just establish from the outset that Will Smith is one of the biggest stars in the world? Maybe not so much in the last 10 months because he has taken a bit of a hit after the Chris Rock slap. Or he did the Chris Rock, and everybody's like, you can't come to the Oscars for 10 years and all that. I don't know that he's like done any really big movies. It doesn't matter. He's Will Smith. He's worth billions of dollars. He's got franchises under his belt. He's got Oscars. He's got trophies. Look, he's Will Smith. He's legit. And he's married to Jada Pinkett. Jada Pinkett, who was on A Different World for like 10 episodes one year. Jada Pinkett, who is absolutely a nothing without being married to Will Smith. Jada Pinkett, who going all the way back to the 1990s, I never liked her. Like, she was famous. Here's the deal. Jada Pinkett came up in the early 1990s. She's a part of this, like, there was this diversity movement on television that we hadn't seen in a while. We had, television was all white in the 70s and 80s, with the exceptions of shows that were all black. But there really wasn't this mixture of the two ever, right? So you had shows that were all white, like the Waltons, if you will. And then you had Good Times, which was all black, and it was you didn't really have a show. I guess what, Different Strokes, that might have started it, where you began to see the integration of the two, although that wasn't really a representation of black life in the 80s. That was representation of a poor little black kid being adopted by a rich white guy. That's what that was. They did that a couple of times, Silver Spoons. But Jada Pinkett Smith sort of benefited from that. And there was like a whole bunch of these pretty, attractive, young actresses or entertainers who were basically just given vehicles. They were just put on TV shows. I made the comparison. I said to James yesterday, and he seemed to think that this was a pretty good comparison. I said, Jada Pinkett, without marrying Will Smith, is at best Stacey Dash. Right? So, I mean, she's not anything alone on her own. She's forgettable. She's somebody who did a couple of sitcoms in the 70s. That's it. Now, she has become famous because for 30 years, we've seen her on red carpets tethered to the biggest star in Hollywood, her husband, Will Smith. All right, so what's the story here? So we know about their relationship. We know that she does this Red Table Talk show where she divulges all kinds of dish on her marriage, and she's been throwing Will Smith under the bus publicly for, it feels like, 5 years now on this stupid show. She talked openly about cheating on him. She got him on the show and told him she cheated on him. It's crazy, all of this shit. Then after she really does emasculate him on this show. I listened to a hot reel, sizzle reel of just all of these different things that, and this is a couple of years ago it was going around, but it was all the different things that Jada, you know what it was? It was after the Chris Rock slap. I think we played it on the night show. Anyway, it was a compilation of all the things that she had said just that were just really shitty about Will, that she said just like matter-of-factly. And that's why it was interesting that Will Smith felt so compelled to defend his wife's honor when it's like, man, she like drags you. You're like her bitch. So there was that. And then there was the, you keep my wife's name out of your mouth. There was that whole thing, that very, very strong very declarative. She's my wife. You keep her name out. So that was like 9 months ago, right? Jada Pinkett Smith now says that she and Will have been separated for 7 years and that she thought the Oscar slap was a skit. What's this bullshit? What do you mean separated 7 years? So you guys live in different places? Because I always just thought you lived in this big house. You had this crazy house with these kids running around. You guys don't even live together. You have 7 years. You've basically been separated and leading separate lives, she says now. Why didn't you say this after the slap? Why didn't he say that when he's like, you keep my wife's name out of your mouth? Jada Pinkett Smith says she and Will Smith have been separated for 7 years. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith were just not ready to go public with the announcement of their separation, and they've kept it a secret for 7 years. Hold on to your partners, folks. The year of celebrity splits is traveling backward in time. In a bombshell new interview with today's Hoda Kotb, Jada Pinkett Smith revealed that she and Will have been living completely separate lives since 2016. Not completely separate. You went and sat next to each other at the Oscars. So what you're saying is in your private incarnation, you guys are separated. But publicly, you have been publicly still together and showing up as a twosome. Let's see. It was not a divorce on paper, but it was a divorce, she confirmed to Kotb. Not a divorce on paper. Okay, so here's what's going on here. She did something wrong. He has action. Will Smith has action for divorce. Will Smith can win a divorce. If Will Smith wanted to, because she did something wrong. Obviously, she did something wrong. And Will Smith can probably prove that in court should a divorce come. Now that realization, that's going to play into, what she could take from him. Because remember, Jada Pinkett Smith, a couple of sitcoms back in the early 90s. Will Smith, Bad Boys, Men in Black. I mean, come on, man. Music, pop star. What do you want to... Obviously, we are talking about two different stacks of cash. So Jada probably did something wrong. Will Smith knows that she did something wrong. And the facts of that situation mean that she's not going to be able to get all that she thinks she's going to get from him. Okay? So they're in a stalemate there. That's why they haven't gotten a divorce, because a divorce is going to be really expensive for Will. And I think Will is looking at this like, maybe, look, it can go two ways with Will. Will can be like, you ain't getting a divorce. You ain't getting any money. You ain't gonna. I'm gonna pay you this much of a month. We got our kids. You're an asshole. I'm an asshole. We don't like each other. We're gonna show up for red carpets. We're gonna hold hands. But you ain't getting a divorce because it's the state of California. And even if it goes slightly bad for me, that means you're gonna get about $1 billion out of me. And I ain't giving you $1 billion, bitch. I think that's the deal. So for 7 years, they've got an arrangement. And she lives high off the hog, and the whole world thinks they're still married, and he doesn't have to sign over half of his real estate holdings to her. I think that's what's going on here. Now, James last night, he thinks that this is all just a lie. And I'm like, no, it can't all that's just not, there's got to be some semblance to that. There's got to be some, it's not just a flat out lie. And what would the lie be? I mean, no, you guys love each other. No, what is the lie? I don't understand. Like, she would be the one that would know. She does. Obviously, there's no love here. There's obviously they've got kids. Maybe they're friends. That's fine. I think that's a wonderful thing. I see that a lot. We see that a lot. The older I get, like I have friends who are in similar situations. They've got kids. They've raised kids. Those kids are now in college and they're not in love anymore. They're friends. They're partners in the family business, which is family. And they're co-CEOs. You got mom and you got dad and everything's fine. The kids know. Kids are like, yeah, dad's got an apartment, but they're not divorced. So I don't know. Dad's got a girlfriend. Mom's got a pool boy. That whole thing. They're not divorced. They show up. They show Christmas dinner. They show up. They sit with each other. They laugh. They're a family. It's wonderful. Wednesday nights, he's sitting in his bachelor apartment, and she's hosting book club at the family home that is now an empty nest because Anyway, it means that Jada and Will, who married in 1997, were separated not only during the infamous 2020 Oscar slap, during which Will called Jada his wife, but also throughout Jada's entire entanglement with R&B singer August Alsina. Jada Pinkett Smith has always been sort of pathetic to me. She has always been pathetic. She's always been a try-hard, and she's not only been a try-hard, but she's been a not good enough try hard. Like, yeah, I know you're really trying. I know you're putting in the work, Jada, but your 40 times sucks. You know what I mean? It's like she's tried to be a rock star, like not hip hop. Like you think that, like, you know, Jada, because of her situation, her history with Tupac, and then of course her marriage to Will Smith, like, you know, one of the biggest R&B and hip hop pop stars of the last 30 years. You would think that maybe she would go that avenue, but no, she tried to be different and tried to be interesting. And she went like punk metal. Like Jada Pinkett Smith had like a punk metal band, and everybody was like, oh, that's interesting. And then we all moved on and nobody cared. And then she came back and she tried to do this, like she did an art thing. Like she was trying to be an artist she's all over the road. She is desperately looking. You know what it is? Here's the problem. Although this shouldn't be the problem. Is she a muse? Do you think she's a muse? No, because Will Smith was already Will Smith. They married in 97. Will Smith was already Will Smith in 97. So, okay. But I was going to say, is she a muse? Because she came to Los Angeles with Tupac. Her and Tupac went to high school together in Baltimore. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. And Tupac hated Will Smith. It's just like the whole Will Smith Tupac thing. She's been holding that over his head for years. Like Tupac apparently loved Jada, and Jada loved Tupac, but Jada hooked up with Will while she was still with Tupac, and Jada was like, because like at that time, you know, who knew about what? And she made the right deal because Tupac lived a lifestyle that ended up getting him killed, and Will Smith lived the lifestyle that ended up, you know, with her being a billionaire now if they get divorced. So she made the right choice. But the entire time, because, you know, Will Smith has always been sort of, the one criticism against him is that he's candy ass. That has never been a criticism of Tupac. So imagine you got this woman in between. So Will Smith, think of how pussy, I'll just put it this way, think of how pussy Will Smith must feel with his wife, knowing that his wife was madly in love with Tupac, who was not pussy. You know, it's like, so Will, that's what I theorized the slap was about. I think that was an overreaction from a guy who has been cuckolded by the ghost of Tupac for 40 years. And I think that's what that was. And I think I said that at the time. Anyway, screw these people. I'm done with them. Although, let me tell you this. If I'm being honest, I'm not done with Will. I'm over it. Remember how mad I was? I was so mad. I was like, that guy should never work again. Well, in 9 months. I got no problem with Will Smith. If Chris Rock doesn't seem to have a really big ongoing issue with it, I don't have an issue with it. I like Will Smith. I mean, Will Smith has always seemed to be a phony to me. You know how, like, I tell you, like, I'm like really good at a couple of things, like I'm really good at mini golf. I'm really good at that. Terrible at most things. Most things I'm just mid to terrible at, but I'm really good at mini golf, and I'm really good at judging people, just seeing the way that I can size a person up. Like, is that a good dude? Can I trust that guy? I'm good at that. Will Smith has always sort of had a bit of that Jimmy Fallon vibe about him, where it's so obviously phony, where you're so obviously being. Oh, wait, hold on. I don't know why my son is texting me right here in the middle of the show on a football. Weird. My son just sent me a text. He's supposed to be in school. It's 1:44. He's got a game tonight. He just sent me a text. You ready? With a question mark. And then immediately followed it up with, wait, never mind. He said it. He's screwing around with somebody in class, and he accidentally sent a text to his dad. All right, there you go. Sorry, I turned the text off. I only get texts from him. Those are the only ones that I can hear during the show. Where are we? What are we talking about? Jada and Will? Yeah, they suck. Let's move on. Okay. Rod Stewart is trending. Rod Stewart's making the news today. This is interesting. I don't know how you feel about Rod Stewart. I don't really have a hot take on Rod Stewart other than, you know, he's got some bangers. Rod Stewart's got some bangers. Rod Stewart, like I like Rod Stewart songs that aren't necessarily like big Rod Stewart songs. Like the big Rod Stewart song, man. I don't think I've ever looked at a Rod Stewart Spotify playlist. I bet you I could get into a Rod Stewart Spotify playlist. I have not listened to Rod Stewart. First of all, I've never listened to Rod Stewart. Like I've never been like, I gotta get to the record store to get the new Rod Stewart record. Rod Stewart is a dude from a generation before mine. Rod Stewart was like, for our moms, maybe stuff like that. So, but he was everywhere in my formative years growing up. Musical, like Hall & Oates. We talked about them yesterday. I never went and bought a Hall & Oates CD, but they were everywhere, and I'm familiar with them. That's kind of how Rod Stewart was. I know he's got so many hits. The guy is so big. You know what song I like? I like that song. I like that song, Baby Jane. I like that one. That's not like a big hit, but that's a good song. Baby Jane, don't leave me hanging on the line. It's got that graspy voice. I don't know. I can't carry a tune, but I can go up and hit those notes. What's the other? Oh, I like that one. Infatuation. I don't know. 80s Rod Stewart's fine. I got no problem with Rod Stewart, the musician. I'm also not a huge fan of Rod Stewart, the musician. I'm just trying to say that he's there. He's there. He's got respect. Crazy. Hey, you want to go see Rod Stewart? All right. Hey, you want to pay $200 for Rod Stewart tickets? Nah. I'll go see him. That's how I feel about him. Now let's talk about the public persona of Rod Stewart, because this I know a little bit about. I got a friend who's actually friends with Rod Stewart. I got a friend, but I got a friend who's like been to his house and like hung out with him and like been to dinner with him, which is pretty cool. And I can tell you, Rod Stewart's awesome. Like this dude. Okay, I can tell you the dude. You know who the dude is? Richard Hunter. Richard Hunter is like, you'd be shocked, dude. We were at the Grammys one year, and this is how lame I am. Okay, this is probably why my marriages don't work out. So we were at the Grammys, and it was the night of it was the Saturday night before the Grammys. The Grammys are held on Sunday evening for the television broadcast, but the big party night is Saturday night. And we had gone to a party or at a bar for one of the record labels. They were throwing some, kind of thing. And I'm there with my girlfriend, and we're having fun. And then I don't know, for some reason I was just like, oh, I'm done with this. We had a big day at the beach. We were going to Santa Monica on Sunday morning, and we had to rent a car, and it was like a whole thing. And I'm like, all right, I don't want to go crazy tonight. Let's not go crazy on Saturday night. So we go back to the hotel, the Standard, and we're sitting at the bar. We're having a nightcap before we go up. We're talking to some of the other people that are staying at the hotel, because everybody who's been brought in as a member of the media is for the Grammys is staying at this hotel. So it's a lot of people, and we're having a lot of fun. Richard Hunter calls me, and he goes, hey, what are you doing? I go, we're just sitting at the bar. We just got back from the A&M party. He's like, oh, hey, why don't you come out to the Hollywood Hills? We're having a little small party here, and you and my girlfriend. He's like, you and her ought to come. And I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, dude, it's at Rod Stewart's house. It's me, Rod Stewart, like 5 other people. And I said, nah. I don't know, man. I'm like, what? We're downtown LA, the hills. What is that? Is that going to take me like an hour? So, but I hear Rod Stewart's awesome. And Rod Stewart is trending today because apparently he was offered some incredibly huge paycheck to do a concert for some super rich Saudi dude over there in Saudi Arabia. And Sir Rod Stewart said, nah, you guys go kick rocks. I don't need it. I don't need to be a part of your Saudi whitewashing. Rod Stewart's a cool guy. He's getting a lot of kudos for turning. But again, see, you give Rod Stewart credit for that, right? Like, I think, like, let's say it was like $100 million for Rod Stewart to do 20 songs. That'd be hard to turn down, wouldn't it? I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, unless you're Rod Stewart, where, you've already got $100 million 10 times, 20 times over. Rod Stewart's got money. So he's in a position where he can take the moral stand and go, I will not cast the blood money of the Saudi regime. He can do that. And good for him. Can't do that? Me. Hell, if the bloodthirsty Saudi regime said, we want to sponsor your show for $500 a month, I'd be like, welcome aboard, Saudi. No, it wouldn't be for $500. My point is this: when you're already wealthy and when your bills are already paid, it's good that you can still, take these moral stands. Somebody's got to take the moral stance. Look, I'm not saying that like it diminishes it. He took the moral stand. That's good. If the people who don't need the money won't take the moral stand, nobody will take the moral stand. So congratulations. Thank you to Rod Stewart. Here's a story that is coming out of, where is this? Is this Florida or whatever? It's like the real Footloose. Are you familiar with, just let me see where this is. Walker High School. Is this Florida or is it Louisiana? Okay, so here's the story. Walker High School principal. Well, no, this is the update. I don't want the update story. Louisiana. So this is out of Louisiana, Walker High School in Louisiana. There's this little girl. Her name is Kaylee Timonay. Or Timonette. I don't know. I'm going to say Timonay because that's typically how that works. She's the homecoming queen. She's the president of the student council. She's got a 4.0 grade point average, and she is just, she's trying to get a little bit of academic help for college. A bunch of scholarship programs. Going to get her out of this little Louisiana town, and she's big things. Adorable girl. Like I said, she got the good grade. She's popular among her classmates. She's the student leader. All of those things. Homecoming weekend, big weekend for her. Homecoming queen and all. She attends a party, homecoming night. Like, I don't know, the night of homecoming party. It's that's off. Well, it's not off campus because it's not high school or it's not college. But she attended a party. Like high school kids go to parties. Somebody took a video from the party of her dancing at this party. The video, oh, here's what it was. It was the DJ. The DJ who was hosting the party, or not hosting the party, playing the party, made a video as a viral advertisement for his DJ service. And in the video is the girl, the 4.0, the student council president, student leader, homecoming queen. In the video that this guy made to promote his DJ business, shows her dancing. Not jerking off her boyfriend at a showing of Beetlejuice. No, she's dancing. So this video goes out. It's an advertisement. It's nothing salacious about it or anything like that. It's, hey man, look at how I get the room bumping. Hire me for your next party. I'm the best DJ in town. That's what it was. So this gets on the principal's radar of the high school. Principal suspended her. Principal kicked her out of school. Principal took away her scholarships. Let me read you the story. The principal of Walker High School has released a statement, on the situation concerning Kaylee Timonay. Following public backlash towards his decision to take away her high school privileges after a video. Oh, here's the other thing. She was going to graduate in like 3 weeks because she's super smart and she's graduating early and she's getting the hell out of this town. She was supposed to graduate in 3 weeks and he kicked her out. Now she can't even do that. She lost her scholarship. She's supposed to go to college because she was dancing at a homecoming party because she's a high school girl. Kaylee Timonay's situation, following the public backlash towards his decision to take away her school privileges after a video surfaced of her dancing at a private party at an off-site location. In the statement, Principal Jason St. Pierre said that he has apologized to the Timonay family and will reinstate Kaylee's position on the Student Government Association and reinstate his scholarship endorsement of her. At Walker High School, we strive to place our students first in every decision so they may be prepared for whatever career path they aspire to. And I believe my action here will assist in doing that, said St. Pierre in the statement. All right, so this dude tries, he thinks he can secretly get away with this because this is who this monster is at this little rural high school in the middle of nobody cares, Louisiana. This guy, who is, by the way, just like the dude in Footloose. This is the real Footloose. He is a deacon at his church. He is all about women shouldn't this and women shouldn't that. All of this stuff. How do we know? Because he's got Facebook and because we've seen it. So he calls this girl. He sees this video. Remember, it's just an advertisement for the DJ company. So he sees this video and he calls this girl, this student leader, should be the pride of the town. So he calls this girl down, gets her in his office, and he starts screaming at her about Jesus, about how she was at public high school. about how she is disappointing him, and this is not how good Christian girls under his he thinks he's a cult leader. He's the freaking principal of some nobody cares high school in the middle of who gives a shit, Louisiana. In the statement, Principal St. Pierre, and he's now apologized. He's like, yeah, maybe I went off a little bit too much. He tried to destroy her life because she was dancing. Now, you might be asking, and I'm going to show you here. You might be asking, well, Pugs, come on. I mean, let me see how she was dancing. Yeah, I'll show you. Just bear with me. The principal also announced on Monday that he requested a leave of absence for the remainder of the school year. Okay, so that's good. So the principal has quit. All right, I'm going to show you the story. We'll watch the little story how it was covered, because I think they've got actual video of her dancing, so you can see how Jesus would be so angry at how this girl was dancing. You guys, all right, burying the lead here. There was nothing wrong with the way she was dancing. It's like she wasn't even dressed provocatively. She was dressed, it looked like it looked like a pool party. It looked like everybody was dressed in bathing suits, but she wasn't even wearing like a skimpy bikini or anything. She had stuff covering her arms, and she's just dancing and smiling. Like, it wasn't like she wasn't grinding. This wasn't like, a twerk contest. It's from the midsection up, and it's just a girl happily dancing. Crazy. I'll let you see the story. All right. By the way, we're in no hurry today, guys. Don't worry about it. I know sometimes we get out of here like, 2 o'clock. I'll like slam the door shut and say, we're done, son. Nah, I got nowhere to be. Actually, that's not true. I do have somewhere to be. Oh, Rangers got the Astros, so we got that. That'll be fun. We'll talk about that in the coming days. I'm sorry, for some reason, my Google Drive went a little wild. That's yesterday. Come on, Google Drive, get your shit together. Sorry. Hey, now would be a good time for you to consider supporting this kind of talk radio. Non-divisive, non-political, fun, fence post talk radio. The kind of talk you wish you could have with your neighbors. Every day, Monday through Friday at noon. Cash App, Venmo, whatever it is. Help us out. Really? Okay, here we go. There we go. I found this one. Well, yeah, I'll show you the news story. We'll watch the news story. See how they're presenting it down in that part of the world.
They picked up their child from school.
Hold on, they're making us watch a commercial. Well, why not? All right, here we go.
Good evening, I'm Lester Dewey. We're going to start in Livingston Parish on a story that is now making national headlines. The principal of Walker High School has reversed course on a discipline for a senior who was caught on video dancing at a homecoming after party. You may remember Kaylee Timonette was stripped of her position on the Student Government Association by Principal Jason St. Pierre. He also apparently took away his scholarship endorsement for her last week, but that public apology is not sitting well with the student's mother, who says the damage has already been done.
I thought this was going to be the best time ever this year.
That's a reaction tonight from Walker High School student Kaylee Timonette. Just last week, the principal of Walker High removed her from the Student Government Association and took away his scholarship endorsement for her after a video surfaced of Kaylee dancing at a private party at an off-site location after homecoming.
And I'm still going to school every single day, no matter how hard it's been. And I really don't want to go back to school now, but I'm not going to miss it because I'm not backing down. I'm going to stand my ground.
Hold on, let's go back to that one more time.
Walker High principal Jason St. Pierre is now.
This guy found objection.
I really don't want to go back to school now.
Of Kaylee of Walker High removed her from the Student Government Association and took away his scholarship endorsement for her after a video surfaced of Kaylee dancing at a private party.
Okay, so that's her right here, raising her arm. This is her. This is the clip that went viral that the principal decided this little girl's life needed to be destroyed because she's a harlot slut.
at an off-site location after homecoming.
And I've still gone to school every single day, no matter how hard it's been. And I really don't want to go back to school now, but I'm not going to miss it because I'm not backing down. I'm going to stand my ground no matter how hard it is.
Walker High principal Jason St. Pierre is now
Look at this asshole. Let me just pause you right there. Look at this asshole. This is the guy who tried to throw his Jesus and all of that. He's a public school principal. He tried to destroy this girl's life because she went out and had a good time on her homecoming. Ugh.
reversing course on Timonette's discipline just 8 weeks before she is set to graduate early. St. Pierre says after meeting with the Timonette family and district staff in Livingston Parish, he will reinstate Kaylee's position on the student government.
First of all, can we also talk about this high
and
school?
District staff in Livingston Parish.
So this high school looks like a shit bucket. This high school looks unbelievably bad. And I'm starting to now recognize that am I just privileged when it comes to high schools? Because I went to a nice high school. I mean, I didn't go to a high school that was like, this is the most kick-ass high. I went to a nice high school, though. It was a nice building. Didn't look like this. This looks awful. This looks like a refugee camp. Is this what rural public high schools look like? My son goes to school in Plano. He goes to a school that looks like a shopping mall. I mean, it's just, I guess I'm spoiled. Every team that I've gone, every high school that I have visited here in the past, this season, we played all the road games. I've gone to all the different high schools. They're all beautiful. They're all beautiful and they're all nice. This high school sucks. Look at this.
He will reinstate Kaylee's position on the Student Government Association and will reinstate his scholarship endorsement for her. The state.
Look, did you see that? What is that, a classroom?
And will reinstate his scholarship.
This looks like a crack motel. That doesn't look like a high school classroom.
Endorsement for her. The statement reads in part, quote, "At Walker High, we strive to place our students first in every decision so they may be prepared for whatever career path they may aspire to take, and I believe my action will assist in doing that." However, Kaylee's mom says the scholarship deadline has since passed.
It's too little too late. I even told him on the phone conversation when he made to us at noon today asking us to come into the office and he mentioned reinstating the scholarship. I let him know that the scholarship deadline was done and the damage that he's done to her is done.
And she believes the public apology should have came a long time ago before the public backlash even started. And her daughter should not be worrying about this during her last.
Look at that. Did you see that? The school, all the kids at the school had buttons made that said, "Let Kaylee dance." It's crazy. It's the
6 weeks of high school.
What I want for this to never happen to another student again. So however that seems fit, I want to make sure this never happens to another person.
Meanwhile, the family will now be considering legal options after all this has taken place.
Look at that. Look at that terrible. Look at how slutty and
We've
skanky.
got that full statement from Principal St. Pierre waiting for you in this story on our 9 News app.
All right. We don't need to go anymore with that. Anyway, the happy news today is that story was from a couple weeks ago. The happy news today is that guy's out. Is that he's gone. He's no longer the principal. He's probably going to be fired. Here's what he did. Big fish, small pond. He's principal in this little rural town. I bet the high school is probably the center of that town, and he's the king of the high school. And I don't think that didn't go to his head. This guy was an asshole. Imagine how difficult he was if you were a substitute science teacher having to deal with this guy. He's been put in his place, tried to take his weird, footloose, no dancing, moral Christian bullshit and shove it down the throat of this nice little girl. Tried to blow up her whole high school experience because he's a fucking weirdo. He's a fucking weirdo. That's what he is. And he's gone. And now he's taking a leave of absence. His career is over. And that's a great thing because obviously he should not have the career that he had. He has no interest in guiding these children to greatness in their lives, or at least providing them with the tools to make every best effort towards having a successful adulthood. No, this guy is like, he's judge, jury, and executioner. There is no way that he could have thought taking away this girl's scholarship and kicking her out of high school weeks before she's set to graduate early. There's no way he could have thought that was a reasonable punishment for the video we saw. That was his ego. He was angry. He was angry that she would dare this. And so he dropped the hammer on her because he's a piece of shit. There you go. That's it. That's the story of the dancing girl. It's been going on for a few weeks, but today we do have at least some sort of conclusion to it, and that is that teacher is gone. That principal. Okay, here's another story. I want to talk about this. This one is because a little housekeeping, I guess we call it. We did this story when it first happened. We covered it. She was on the run. You guys remember Caitlin Armstrong? Caitlin Armstrong. Oh, that's a little too loud. Don't like that. Caitlin Armstrong, ladies and gentlemen. Caitlin Armstrong was the girl down in Austin, the extreme athlete who killed the bicycle girl. Remember? Okay, so remember Caitlin Armstrong? She's a hot yoga teacher. Remember she was on the run? All right, so Caitlin Armstrong, hot Austin yoga teaching extreme athlete. She has a boyfriend, and her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, who is a professional cyclist, is coming to Austin to compete in a professional cycling race, and she killed her. So the boyfriend, Caitlin Armstrong, kills the ex-girlfriend of her current boyfriend, kills her. Everyone knows it was her, too. Everyone's like, hey, we know who killed her. It's Caitlin. Where's Caitlin? And they're like, I don't know where Caitlin is. She went on the run. Remember, there was a manhunt for her. She was in New York. She was in Dallas and all. Then they finally caught her. They caught Caitlin Armstrong. They brought her back to jail. They perp walked her. She's really sexy. She's like a sexy catch me if you can type. Very fun. She got away yesterday. She did it again. Caitlin Armstrong. Extreme athlete. Oh, come on. You know, she's got some parkour skills. She saw that dude. Remember the guy that escaped and was on the run for a couple of weeks? I bet she saw that dude doing that scaling thing, how he scaled up the wall. She probably saw that and went, yeah, I can do that. I can totally do that. That's not hard. Shit, I've been doing stuff like that for you. And she tried to make an escape. She didn't try to make an escape that way, though. But that's probably what she saw that and it put it in her head. She's like, yeah, I could probably break out of here. So here's how she broke out. Pro athlete, right? And she is a professional extreme athlete. She made her money, competing all around the globe and all different kinds of things. She's been described as a surfer, a rock climber, a cyclist. But she makes her, she owned a yoga studio in Austin. That's kind of her home base kind of a thing. So here's what happened. She had to go to the doctor yesterday. So the marshals took her to a doctor somewhere in Austin. They took her out of the prison. They put her in the car. They drive her to the doctor. She goes to the doctor. She comes out of the doctor. She starts walking out to the car with the two marshals, and she booked. That's it. Nothing more exotic than that. This pro athlete who's a runner and a distance runner and all this stuff. She saw her moment while she was being walked back out to the car, and she bolted. And apparently she got away. She got a mile away. She was found in the backyard in some neighborhood. But she looked at the situation and she's like, I'm guessing that my 40 time is far superior to both of these people who are walking me out. If I were to just boom, and she ran and she took off and they caught her. She's a killer. She's a crazy killer lady, but she's fun. These are interesting stories. We need a movie. No, she can't get a movie because she killed somebody. That's what it is. If she didn't brutally murder the innocent, girlfriend, because that's all this other stuff is fun and we can be distracted by the true cruelty and barbarity of what she did. All this other stuff is fun because she's attractive and she was on the run. And we were speculating that a really hot girl on the run in America has no problem. All she's got to do is go to a bar. Go to a bar every single day. You can hook up with somebody. You will find you're a hot girl. Find a guy who's obviously got money, who's also obviously doesn't have girlfriends. You know what I mean? You can find these guys. Go to a bar. They're sitting there by themselves. They're watching the game. They got money. All they got is money because they got no family. And they have good jobs because they've really thrown themselves into their work. So they're like the number one, semiconductor salesman on the East Coast, and they're pulling in like $800,000 a year. You can stay with him if you're a hot girl on the run, and that's what she did. She met a bunch of guys. She met some guy. She met some guy online who had no idea that she was murdering people. She murdered one person. She met this guy online, and she's like, you should fly me out to New York. And so he got her a ticket and she flew out to New York. He didn't know that she was running from the FBI because she had murdered somebody, but stay with him for a while. And then, she get tired of him. Go down to the, all I'm saying is attractive people have options that the rest of us fuddlies don't. And she's also an athlete. So she looked at the people who were, they're not saying whether or not she was in handcuffs, because that's interesting. If she decided to make her bolt, like her calculation was that I can outrun these guys. That if we start from a standing position right here and I just run, they're not going to catch me. So that's probably what she thought. But were her hands? I don't know. What else do we have? Okay, so here we go. This is gonna be the last one we'll do today. This is a bummer one, man. This one kind of serious, kids. So you guys, well, let's just watch something. Let's just watch. I mean, because this is a big part of. No, that's not it. Ugh. What is going? Is anybody else having problems with Google today? Google has asked me to sign in and re-sign in like twice in the last hour, and that's odd. That is typically not what Google does. Hold on. All right, let's watch this. Let's just so that we remember. I'm gonna play you something, and I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna watch it. It's a minute 48. We'll watch this for a minute 48, and then I'm gonna tell you something that is just, it ought to turn your stomach. It ought to just kill you. All right, here we go. Let's watch this. 1984 Olympics. American icon Mary Lou Retton. First trip at 10. Mary Lou Retton. Man, she big for about a year. Woo! Simone Biles is big. See, what's this little floor exercise? Got to put in the floor exercise too. First American gymnast, Moran. But we got some good ones recently. But for those of us in Gen X, Mary Lou Retton was the shit. And I'm also going to tell you why Mary Lou Retton is more of a symbol and an icon than some of the others. Let's watch her performance here in the balance beam.
Winner of the gold medal, scoring 79.175, representing the United States of America, Olympic champion Mary Lou Retton.
Gillian Reedy boxing right here. All right, so that is, of course, Mary Lou Retton, her stunning, legendary performance at the 1984 Winter Olympics, where she took home the gold medal, the first American woman to ever score a perfect 10 or something like that. I don't know. Didn't she replicate Nadia Comaneci's 1970, whatever it was. It was quite a thing. Here's why it's more of quite a thing than maybe, people who achieve similar things in modern Olympics. It was quite a thing because it was 1984 and it was in Los Angeles. It was the American Olympics. It was 1984 and it came after a year when we had boycotted the 1980 Olympics that were held in Moscow. This was the Cold War, people. This was huge. I mean, this was the idea of an American being just dominant. Gymnastics in the Olympics meant something different back then during the Cold War. And I really don't know how to explain it to you if you didn't live in it. It seemed like there was more at stake, and there wasn't. Don't get it twisted. There was nothing at stake. It was still stupid games. But it felt like, because of the way the world had shaken out to that point. It seemed like there was something more to it. So Mary Lou Retton became a bona fide American icon. She became, I mean, there are schools named after Mary Lou Retton, as I was doing this research on this thing. So why are we talking about Mary Lou Retton? This story, I've seen this story now for 2 days, and it started to pick up today. And I got no answers for it. I got no solution. But what a shitty story. This is just a shitty story. Mary Lou Retton is dying in a hospital with some form of rare pneumonia. Mary Lou Retton, that person that we just saw, she doesn't have health insurance. She's destitute. Her family has been wiped out because for some reason we don't give health insurance to national icons and American heroes. Fuck. Now, her daughter, and this is why it's just so unnecessary. Her daughter was forced to basically tell, they wanted to keep it private. She's Mary Lou Retton. She's been private for 30 years. She's just living her life. She's dying. It's a terrible thing. The family's going through something horrible. But her daughter has been forced to humiliate herself. And by the way, I don't see it as a humiliation, not at all. But I can see how she might feel it that way. To humble herself, to maybe somehow take a little bit of zest off the shimmer of her mom's reputation and brand. Her mom, the American icon, Mary Lou Retton. Daughter's been forced to go out and, contact members of the media, asking them to please write a story on my mom. She can't afford her hospital bills. Mary Lou Retton, she didn't like leave the Olympics and become a crack addict prostitute. No, she just, for some reason, doesn't have the coverage for whatever this is, because here in America, we're not all taken care of as a birthright the way some of us think it should be. That seems like very modern. We want healthy people. We want that, but okay, we don't look at it that way because there's money to be made in keeping people healthy. Mary Lou Retton, American icon. Anyway, her daughter's out there, trying to start up GoFundMe. They were trying to 50 grand. They needed 50 grand. Apparently there's some ongoing thing. They're going to try and keep Mary Lou Retton alive. And her daughter was like, we need to try and raise 50 grand for past medical bills and all this stuff. We're losing everything. We're losing our house. 50 grand. Well, thankfully, they have raised over 400 grand. So there is no, call going out. Everybody give your money to me. People did step up. Of course, people stepped up. Are you kidding me? Of course. You learned that Mary Lou Retton is dying in a hospital because she doesn't have health insurance? Yeah, someone in America is going to... 400 million Americans, trust me, there's enough cool-ass rich people out there to make sure that this doesn't have to stand. And people did. And they raised 50 grand of it alone. Came from no less a source than Mattress Mac. You guys know Mattress Mac? That degenerate gambler down there in Houston who owns the mattress store, and every year he makes news because he goes on, I don't know, he makes a Super Bowl bet that's like, Mattress Matt is betting his testicles, whatever. Mattress Matt, he makes these crazy, crazy Super Bowl bets. Apparently he saw Christine Brennan, who is a sports writer. Christine Brennan wrote a thing about Mary Lou Retton for Mary Lou's daughter, because Mary Lou's daughter had reached out to Christine Brennan and said, can you do something? Mattress Mac just read the article and sent 50 grand. Boom! That's how you do it. But then other people read the article. And so they got her there. So her bills are going to be paid. So good. But holy fuck, should we as people just not feel right about the idea that an American icon, somebody who brought us, and she brought us joy, man. That was, an American, we won the Olympics. You know what I mean? She provided something to all of us during the Cold War when we were looking for any little thing. And that's why I say it meant a little bit more. Look, I love this. Who's this kid? Kayla McCaleb. I don't know who that. She's wonderful. She's the one that she lives up here in where Allen or something. She's Olympic gold medalist. That's wonderful. She won and she's great. But it was in different times. It was like when Mary Lou Retton did it. It was bigger because there were different global sort of vibes and energy going on. It's sad. So thank you, America. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you, Mattress Mac. That's a cool ass move on his part. But man, I don't know. That's just awful. I mean, you would think, goes without saying, right? Mary Lou Retton, she's taken care of. Anybody got eyes on Carrie Strug? What's going on with Carrie Strug? She good? How about some of them ice skaters? We got a bunch of ice skaters that brought us a lot of national pride that we need to make sure they got a toothache, they can go to the dentist, right? Mary Lou Retton. All right, that's going to do it, folks. Thank you so much. We love you. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. What else do we have to do here today? I'm not entirely sure. Let me find this. I got to go to a football game tonight. Gotta go. It's a far one. It's really far. Oh my God. This is not going to be. So there's no Radio Misfits. That's my way of saying there's no Radio Misfits show tonight. By the way, did you notice that? Did you notice, like, what was that? That was completely thoughtless. What I just did there. What I just did there was I said, I got to go to my son's football game tonight. Oh, God. What was that? Oh, God. See what I mean about how interesting our minds are? About how I'm just fascinated. What was that? Oh, God. That is not appropriate at all for how I feel about going to my son's football game. I want to go to my son's football game. Weird programming. It's all around you. It's all around you. Just pick it out. Pick it out and identify it. Some programming's good. For instance, how I drive to my son's high school. When I need to take him, when I need to, I do it. That's programming. I don't have to look it up. I know exactly where it is. Sometimes programming is good. But we do it for everything, and it's not needed for everything. Little now, things are going. I love you, Peter. Thank you. We got Al. We got Byron. Check out the new Practical Picks. Practical Picks. Check it out. Kelly was really funny this week. It's funny every week. Support the show if you can. We'll find out who the executive producers are for tomorrow's show. Venmo, Cash App. Support this kind of talk radio. If you would, that would be grand. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow at high noon right here on the Radio Misfits podcast and streaming network. I am Pugs Moran. Bye, everybody. I have got an old guitar.